Reopen.
All right, I'm just going to stop here. Is this maybe accuracy or matters arising?
Sorry, matters arising. Sorry, it's not. It's not.
Well, look,
Sorry,
I'll bring you in. I'll bring you in and under matters arising. Sure.
thank you very
We'll
much.
just keep
Thank you.
things moving on. So we were at page 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Okay, so to a proposer and seconder, and just for the purposes of this here, rather than put your hands up for proposer and seconder, just unmute your mic, and we'll go with that, because I think that
Councillor Thompson proposed the adoption, Chairman.
Okay, and a seconder.
Seconded, Councillor Robinson.
Okay. So that's proposed second. Any disagreement? Nope. Okay, we'll take that as passed. Set that there. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is paper B, to confirm and sign the meetings of the reconvened council meeting held on the 7th of May 2020. And we'll go through that page by page as well. Page 1. Was that a no? Page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Okay, no indications? No. Okay, so we'll do a proposer and seconder for those.
Proposed, Chair. Josephine Deacon.
Right, Josephine, and anyone seconding?
Seconded, Stephen here.
Okay, second by Stephen. Thanks very much. Any disagreement? No. Okay, we'll take those as passed. Next item, to confirm and sign the meetings of the reconvened council meeting held on the 12th of May, which is paper C. Let me go through it. Page 1, 2, 3. Okay. Emmett?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just the two and planners update. The issue that I was raising wasn't actually the requirement for the removal of the pre-application community consultation. It was the public event element of that. And that was the issue that I had raised on the night of the meeting, but it's been recorded that it's the requirement of the entire pre-application community consultation, which isn't actually the case. I was speaking specifically on the public event aspect of that consultation process.
Austin, can we incorporate that, or? Yeah, if members are content, we can amend that accordingly. Any disagreement with that? No. Okay, I think that'll be incorporated. Okay. Page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, we'll take a proposer.
Proposed, Chair.
That's Victor, I think. Yeah, it might be helpful to say your name afterwards. Seconder.
Seconded, Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Thank you very much. Any disagreement? Okay, we'll take that as passed as well. So we move now to declarations of interest, and we'll probably just go through. Okay.
Chair.
Yeah, I got you. Don't worry, Bert. Bert, have you got a declaration of interest there?
Not really, but before you leave that, I just wanted to congratulate Camp Hull Community Villages and some of those Clannabogan.
Yeah, just I tell you, we're actually we've got that under other correspondence. So if you'll just hold that one, and I'll bring you in at the right time. Is that all right? Okay. So any declarations of interest? Take that as no. Okay. So now we're going on to matters arising from the council meeting on the 6th of May 2020. I go through it page by page as well. So go through it page by page. Page 1, page 2.
Yes, Chair. If I could just highlight for members, we've received 2 items of correspondence in relation to the Council's letters regarding testing facilities. They're included with your papers. The first from the Health and Social Care Board and the second from the Western Health and Social Care Trust. And members will have seen, Chair, the importance that testing is being accorded by both bodies, and they've made reference to the provision to open facility in Enniskillen within the next fortnight. That was dated the 15th of May from the board. And then a similar provision is referenced by Dr. Kilgallen in her correspondence.
Okay, I have indications from Councillor O'Coffey.
It's just obviously it's a welcome development that we now have testing in our constituency area, but I wanted to highlight in regard to the idea that postal testing was an adequate response, and I do note that it's only a temporary measure as well, insofar as it's a mobile unit that they're referring to for wider essential workers. And one of the issues, obviously, in regard to some of the, for example, meat factories where there has been incidents or have been incidents of COVID, is that workers have been unable to access these services primarily because of their inability to get to Altnagelvin, but also because if you're waiting on a test to go to wherever it is and to come back to you, and it can take many, many days, you're left without any income for the period. You're left without knowing whether you have it or not, and you aren't eligible for a furlough in most cases. So it's absolutely essential, as far as I'm concerned, that there is a provision that is accessible, and it is a long-term one. It's not a part-time or a temporary measure.
Okay, well, we'll note those comments then, yeah. Councillor Deehan.
Thank you. I really wanted to make a comment regarding the temporary nature of the testing centre in Omagh. I think that as testing and tracing becomes more widespread, that we will require a permanent testing centre in the Omagh area. After all, Omagh is the largest centre of population, second only to Derry, in the west of the province. Local access to these services is really important, and I would like to propose that we would write to the Minister asking him to provide a permanent testing centre in Omagh. Thank you.
Okay, well, as a proposal on the table, I have indications from Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would like to commend the PHA in setting up the COVID track and trace testing centre at St Angelo and Enniskillen. I've been past it and it does seem to be a busy place. But I just wondered, can we write? I'd like to propose to write to the PHA to see what is the catchment area for this test and tracing centre. Secondly, is there a benchmark number of tests that need to be carried out to make it viable and sustainable? What numbers are currently passing through? And my other question is, can members of the public be given more information through council channels as to exactly what is a designated essential worker? What is the criteria for applying for testing? And I feel we need clear instructions to the public as to how to obtain a test and how long it is before results are available. And also, if the test is positive, what are the next steps? If the test is negative, will they be required to have a second test if symptoms contain? So I think there's some information needed here to be disseminated in the district because we have this testing tracing centre here.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to take that as a separate proposal, so that's 2 proposals on the table. Yeah, there's one point of clarity here from Alison.
Sorry, Chair, it's just maybe if Councillor Armstrong is content. Obviously, the Council could only disseminate information that we would receive. We wouldn't be in a position to comment on a number of the queries raised therein. So if the Councillor is content that appropriate information could be disseminated on our channels when received, but we don't have that presently.
Then are you happy enough to amend accordingly? No. Then I think you're still muted. Just unmute yourself and indicate your willingness or not to amend. I think we'll take that. I think we'll take that as yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, grand. So there's two proposals on the table. Next up is Councillor Swift.
Garmagat Cahirlock, and I support the comments already raised. We have to commend, the first effort that has been made for the test centre to be brought here to Fermanagh and Omagh. But secondly, I have to highlight the concerns and the criticisms of the same. And while it has been commended, I question, is it a token test centre at this point? And if it is, I need the answers brought forward on behalf of citizens who have raised it. I think the Health and Safety Executive, the Health and Social Care Board, along with the Minister for Health and indeed Public Health Agency, and we can respond to Anne Kilgallen on all of the same. We need clarification on, I suppose, the health and safety and the security of the lines that are being created. Now, while I would think it's a good thing that there are not so many people queuing for testing, but on the flip side of that, it mightn't be a good thing. But we need to know, is the analysis for people who genuinely want to be COVID tested, or are people still afraid to attend? And it is unfortunate that it has been highlighted in one of last week's locals about the concerns over the recruitment process for the test centre, where a company called SSG Net were seeking personnel from the veterans service sector to attend the test centre to either assist or help, but my question is, in what capacity? Because I would certainly like to think the personnel who are working at the test centre are most definitely trained and qualified. I know in the Republic of Ireland you need to be anatomy and physiology trained to be either a swabber or study testing. You would think it would have been more appropriate to seek from the voluntary sector, retired nurses and doctors, or any health service, because certainly any testing that I was ever given from ex-veterans was not a positive experience. So it would be off-putting for some of the constituents that I have represent, and I raise it on their behalf. So those questions I need answered. I want to know, why was this recruitment process allowed? But I also want to know, how effective is this test centre at St Angelo already being, and how effective it is going to be. There's still a lot of unanswered questions. The articles have recorded a lot of the issues that we need to be cognizant of. And I'm very aware of the people out there who are unsure. And I would like to think that those people who are concerned about symptoms would not be afraid to go to a test centre, but they need all those concerns raised and alleviated and clearly understood. And it's obviously our responsibility as elected reps to find out those answers. So if I certainly support Josephine and Diana and what they've already raised, and Donal, but similarly I have those questions also that I want most definitely and urgently raised. Thank you. Gurmagat.
Yeah, so we'll take that as a separate proposal as well. So that's three proposals on the table. Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Chair. Well, whenever we first proposed to write to the various agencies back last month, we didn't have any testing centres in the district. And I suppose it's welcome now that we do have what hopefully will be a permanent facility in the Enniskillen area. And it is regrettable, and I want to just second Councillor Deaton's proposal, that we only have a temporary facility in Omagh. As I said last month, a district of our geographical size and location does warrant 2 test centres, 2 permanent fixtures. And I suppose, it's broadly accepted that COVID-19 will be a feature in our foreseeable future, and testing will also be a thing that we'll be working with day and daily. And I suppose, it's not unreasonable to continue that lobby for a permanent fixture in the Omagh area. So I want to second Councillor Deaton's proposal. And in relation to Councillor Armstrong's comments around communication around the test centres, I also would agree with that. We should be encouraging those, especially our essential services, our essential workers, who may feel they've got symptoms to be tested, so they're not off work unduly, can keep the thing flowing. So I would, agree with Councillor Armstrong that any communication that we can give as a council should be put onto our website and any other way out there that we can do it.
Okay. So we have one proposed and second proposal, but I think it probably just would be appropriate to take a few more interventions before we move to get those. So it's Anne-Marie Fitzgerald next. You're muted still, just. Yeah, you're faint, but we've got you.
Yeah, I'll try to. Just don't want to agree with the other topics here and the testing and tracing. I also believe this is wholly inadequate and inadequate. And whilst it was shocking over the different ones, whenever we heard that the man was getting their testing centre, a lot of people were concerned that.
And I'm going to stop you here because I can just about make you out, but maybe can I come back to you? See maybe if you can talk to Donal about getting the sound sorted out, and we'll come back to you. Okay. Okay. Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. There's some really great points have been raised so far. It definitely was positive to see test site open outside Enniskillen there. But I think to echo what's been said so far, the number of test sites here and across the whole of the north is insufficient, especially for a district of our size. So I'm totally in support of what Josephine is saying, and people interact. It's not just people from Anna don't all just stay to themselves. People interact and move around. So we need to be testing the whole population, even beyond Fermanagh and Omagh. But we need to be prepared to move towards mass testing and contact tracing. It'll be vital. It's proven to be one of the most effective ways to combat this virus. And this virus is going to be with us for quite a while yet. I'm sure we're all aware, like, we have time to go with this so far. And that's where Diana's proposal come in about awareness is so key. Like, the information, there is some information about the test sites and how to book them, but it's not easily found. So it's not, and to get that information and disseminate it would be great to our constituents. So I'm happy to second Diana's proposal there. The other point I was going to say, if Diana would amend her slightly to add just an additional question. I was reading the PHA's reasoning for booking a test today, and it says that if you've experienced symptoms for more than 5 days, you shouldn't be tested. So if she would amend that, we can ask the question, why is that? Because I couldn't find the reason for it anywhere. If she could amend to say, why is it recommended that after 5 days you shouldn't get a test? Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Armstrong, are you happy enough to amend accordingly?
Yes, happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to bring back in Anne-Marie. I think the sound's been fixed. Councillor Fitzgerald, are you wishing to come in now?
Hello, can you hear me now?
No, that's much better.
Much better. Thank you very much. Chris, no, I just wanted to concur with all the remarks, and all the questions that I wanted to ask was really asked by Councillor Armstrong, and I'm glad that she did ask them, and I'm glad that somebody has seconded them. And I believe that the Omagh Testing Centre, whilst it is a positive step forward, I think it's inadequate and really only a token gesture. Omagh Town is a large town, smaller villages and towns, and we have a large workforce, and we are right in the middle of County Tyrone, and we are the head town. And I know that this last few weeks, and we all know, we've read it in the papers about the large meat processing plant within the town and the issues and the fears with the workers there at the minute. And I felt that this could have been done a whole lot better, because it really was a health and safety issue, having any worker to travel whilst having COVID symptoms, whilst in a and safety, and anybody could easily been injured. So just want to all comments and sentiments, and Councillor Deacon also brought in proposals, so I'd like to second hers as well. Thank you.
I think both are already seconded, but yeah, Councillor, so they're already seconded, but your comments are noted. Yeah. Well, as I said, there is one proposal not seconded at the minute by Councillor Swift.
I'm happy enough to second that.
Okay. Next is Eamon.
Yeah, I was going to second the proposal by Councillor Swift, and I also want to add that on the concerns of the lack of the medical expertise, it would also bring into question the validity of the test results. So sort of concerning enough. The other thing is, with the dangers of the second wave, is our commitment to keep this test centre open for the foreseeable. And another issue that has been raised is it's open from 9 to 5, which doesn't actually suit a lot of workers. Would that be extended to sort of suit the working person? And as well as that, the advertising thing, it's not enough people know that it's there and it's available to everyone.
Just in, your comments will be noted. As I say, I don't see any proposal off there. Are you happy enough just that they're noted? Yeah.
I just adamant along with Councillor Swift.
I'd be happy that those comments be included in my proposal. They make a lot of sense for sure. That those working hours should be more flexible. Thank you.
Okay. So next is Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. I suppose again, there's a lot of issue being taken with the temporary facilities available in Omagh. And the reasoning behind that, again, I have serious concerns about the fact that, well, these drive-through testing sites are run seemingly by Randox. They provide the equipment. They've been publicly funded to the tune of tens of millions, and now they're charging exorbitant prices for these testing kits from the health department. So I would have serious reservations about that. And sort of echoing the sentiments or following up on the sentiments raised by Councillor Keenan there too. I've spoken to one individual who went for testing in the temporary site in Omagh here, and they explained the difficulty, first of all, in actually locating where the site was based at. When they went to the site, the people there, they'd received a barcode to scan through their place, but that wasn't checked whenever they actually went to the site. People there were standing wearing gloves, but they were eating their lunch in one corner with the gloves still on. Someone approached the car, threw a testing kit into the back seat. This person, whilst the car was still the ignition was still on in the car, they had to reach into the back seat to get a swab kit whilst on a hill, and they were then advised to do the tests themselves without really any prior medical knowledge. So again, whilst this person was fortunate enough in that their test results came back negative, the question that they had raised with me was, had they done the test correctly? Had they inserted the swab the right way? Had they put it as far back into their mouth as they were supposed to? And there was a lot of really confusion about the setup that was there. So again, any information that the council can put out there, that the company indeed can put out there, would be great. And I think it is vitally important that, as we've seen with the COVID reports surrounding the different businesses and indeed food provision industry, that this is available outside 9 to 5 and these, I suppose, regular standard working hours, so that it is open and available for everyone to attend, and those that are key workers and frontline workers are able to avail of the service provided. Thank you.
Are you happy enough, just before you turn off, that your comments are incorporated into everyone else's motions? Or
yeah, I think Councillor Keenan, Councillor Swift, and indeed Councillor Dean have mentioned that. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just there's some members having problems with sound. Councillor Green, I think it is having trouble with the sound. Maybe you could Sorry, Errol, go on ahead.
Sorry, Chairman. It's just with regard to Councillor Dehan's points and her proposal. I want to be on record as supporting what she had said there, and also Councillor Armstrong's proposals. Just with regard to the test centres, obviously we welcome the one in Enniskillen. It moves some way in Omagh as the capital town of County Tyrone, and obviously, as Councillor Dehan had mentioned, the second largest area of population outside Londonderry. So that's a very important thing. We're the largest council area in Northern Ireland, so therefore it is very important that we would have a more permanent situation with regard to a testing centre in Omagh. So I'm prepared to support Councillor Dehan and Councillor Armstrong's proposals there. And I know they've already been seconded, but I just want to lend my support to them. Just with regard to Councillor Armstrong's comments there as well, with regard to the communication and awareness, I think this is vitally as important as we move forward on that as well. And I'll let other colleagues speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Errol. Councillor Michael Duff.
Thank you, Chair. Again, support the call for a permanent testing centre facility in Omagh, proposed by Councillor Dehan and supported by other councillors. Very sensible. Could I just perhaps check with the Chief Executive, through you as Chair, about other parts of the solution? You know, testing is important, contact tracing up ahead, isolating. You know, if you were to follow the WHO advice, etc., you know, those are integral parts of the wider solution. And earlier on, the PHA wrote to the council some weeks ago, and I think asked the Environmental Health Department of the council, or the unit of the council, to be in a state of readiness for direct involvement in contact tracing. Some technical issue arose, and then that was stood down. You know, what is the current state of play with the council with regard to a direct role or place in the whole contact tracing aspect of this?
Yes, Chair, happy to clarify, and Councillor McElduff has summarised the situation to date very accurately. The current situation is that the PHA have changed their approach, and they are now working on the basis of a contact tracing centre, which will be based in Ballymena. They will not require the council or others to be part of it, but there will be an expression of interest process that environmental health officers, should they wish to work from Ballymena, can apply for and be considered. I think, Chair, in all likelihood, given the home circumstances and location of many of our officers, it is unlikely that there will be a significant uptake, but there will not be direct roles now for each of the councils as originally envisaged. It will entirely be an opt-in on behalf of officers, Chair.
Does that cover it for you, Councillor Michael Duff?
Thank you, Chair. I suppose I would like to see greater local government input here. You know, I would like to see Fermanagh and Omagh District Council have a direct hands-on role here, and we thought we had it. I believe that in controlling infection in local clusters, now unfortunately, Foyle Food Group Limited Omagh became a coronavirus cluster. You know, the figures that we were hearing day in, day out were climbing. At one point, they were in excess of 70. So could the local council environmental health team have played a stronger role? And I would ask the Chief Executive to further clarify if there is any changing legislation or changing regulation which allows the council to take more hands-on interest or action in its own locality should such a cluster break out in future to control this infection.
Yeah, Chair, in relation, well, I suppose to both parts of the question, the council couldn't have acted sooner or differently because it is not within our memorandum and not within our scope of service. As Councillor McElduff highlighted previously, we had understood that we were going to be asked by PHA to participate, and we had indicated our willingness to do so. The model of delivery has now changed. That hasn't really been clarified for councils as to why that has happened, nor has the location in Ballymena been clarified either. In terms of can we take, or has there been any changes in the regulations? Not around the contact tracing proposal, so I don't envisage there being any further changes to that, Chair, unless the Minister so directs. However, we have had additional powers, enforcement duties. I was going to pick this up later on actually in the matters arising, but I can deal with it here. The Minister of Health has designated councils as enforcement bodies for the purposes of specific regulations, which are Regulation 3 and Regulation 4. Regulation 3 deals with the requirement to close premises, and Regulation 4 is around some further business restrictions and closures, but not to have any role within the contact tracing work at this point.
Finally, thank you, Chair. Can I just say that I welcome the enforcement powers being transferred or delegated to councils, because it means the council with great local knowledge can tackle this problem when it arises. And we shouldn't be afraid of the powerful. The powerful don't like to be asked questions, including some workplaces don't like to be asked questions, but there will be no apologies for asking these questions.
Okay, thanks for that, Barry. Next is Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just follow up a little bit from what Diana was speaking about? And while it's good to have one and a mobile testing centre, they're only as good as the tests they actually perform. So if we're in a position that very few know about it and very few are being tested, then we're not going to be very effective in what we're doing. And particularly if those test results take such a long time to come back. Now, we have a space of time to try and get this right before many more people go back to work, before schools start opening in August and all of that, where we need results back within a day to be effective, to be able to do the tracing, because we hear nationally that the people that are supposed to be doing the tracing have no tracing to do because the testing is not being done in a timely fashion to be able to produce work for them. So I would like to see if we could get a little bit more information from the Minister about having this working, that we could get the tests done and back in a day, to be able to provide a reasonable assurance to people that if they have or haven't got a positive test there, that they are going to be let known. I definitely heard where people are taking days and days to have a test result given back to them.
Are you happy enough that's incorporated though within Diana's? Okay, well, your comments will be noted. Emma, I'll bring you in at the end. Councillor Erskine.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, no, the best.
Firstly, I haven't had a chance, and I know congratulations were last night, so congratulations to both yourself and John. I hope you have a wonderful year, and look forward to seeing you at the top this year. No, it was just a comment more so than anything. And I think the facts need to come out there. So, you know, more than happy for, you know, a letter to go off and for the facts to be out there. As we all know as councillors, there's been a number of Facebook warriors over this particular period of time. And, you know, what I would say is, you know, if there's veterans working at these test centres, my understanding is that that was to be an issue controlling traffic going in, security, that type of thing as well. I suppose the main concern for me, you know, is that people are getting tested and that these test centres are in place here. And, you know, we shouldn't be maybe overly concerned about who is actually running security measures there, one thing or another. It'll just be good to see the facts coming out there once we do have a reply from whether that be Health Minister, the Public Health Agency, or whatever. But, you know, if people need to be in there for security measures, then so be that. And hopefully, as I said, the facts will come out on all of that. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Deborah. Next, Councillor Feely.
Thank you, Keir. Sorry about that. I must have forgot to take my hand down. I was just coming to second Bernice's proposal there, for I have a few worries about that as well, but no harm done. Just like to agree with the rest of the council. Sorry about that, Chris.
Not at all. Not at all. Councillor Garrity.
Chris must need to have my mic down. Apologies. No, my hand's not up there.
Oh, there. Oh, well, I get names on a screen just, so that's all right. You happy enough?
Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Councillor Elliott.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, obviously, I've listened to the discussion here this evening, and I would probably be a wee bit concerned about the lack of knowledge, that some of the councillors have here, in fact, tonight, and put forward. As I say, the information is there for anybody that wants to go and look about it. There's talk about the centres only being open from 9 to 5. Anybody, in my experience, anybody that's looking for a test has obviously got symptoms, so they shouldn't be at work. So the timing of this shouldn't be a problem. It's great to see the test centre down at St Angelo. So it is, and someone that travels up and down past it quite a bit. It doesn't seem to be that overly busy, which in my eyes is a good thing. I heard a councillor there allude to somebody that took a test, and I've been through the testing centres in Craigavon on a couple of times with family. And yes, putting the tests in through an open window, this is all part of the process. The staff there are all trained. They talk you through the test. Anybody that has any concerns, as you go into these centres, people are told. They're told. There's people just flash the lights, blow the horn, and people come over to your car and talk to you. At the end of the day, these people are in there because they're showing symptoms. So they are, and then the people on the outside are there to guide you. Yes, you take the test yourself, and you're dropping it out through the car window and things like that. But I think it's to be welcomed that we have got the test centre in Enniskillen, and the importance of the test centres going forward in the battle against this virus. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Keith. Councillor Coffey.
Chair, thanks for letting me in again. One of the reasons I wanted to speak again is because a whole range of issues that should be dealt with further down the agenda have been raised by Councillor McAleer. Now, obviously, McElduff, my apologies. I would probably prefer to deal with them as they come up, because there's a lot of very important issues to deal with appropriately. But I do want to just very quickly say that a lot of people who are going to this for these tests are still working. There's a hell of a lot of people who genuinely really do face the choice of having to go to work with symptoms, and they don't have a result back. And that's just the reality of many, many workers now. So I think it's maybe some other councillors need to realise what actually is happening out in the real world now.
Okay, I'm going to bring in at this stage now, and then there's two more after that.
Yeah, thank you for letting me back in there, Chair, and it's great to hear Councillor Elliott knows better what's going on the ground than the people on the ground taking these tests. But my point, or the one thing that I'd missed out, was just to double check if we could get clarity on how long the temporary provision in Omagh is actually supposed to go on for, because again, information had come to me that it was actually supposed to be finishing up at some stage this week. So obviously that wouldn't be something that anyone, I would imagine, would be in favour of. So I would just, if it was possible, to get some more clarification on the duration of these tests, or if we have any idea how long they're going to be provided for, even on a temporary basis. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, is that not already incorporated into one of the? I think it's already incorporated into one of the earlier proposals. So we'll just keep it as it is. Councillor Donnelly, Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep this short, as most comments have already been said by councillors. I would just like to reiterate my support for the fact that we do now have a certain level of service provision in both the Enniskillen and Omagh areas, and I would voice my support for the retention of a permanent service provision in the Omagh area and in other areas where that is necessary. I think that it is important that we recognise that this virus is going to be around for a considerable time to come, and so we cannot be complacent in terms of how long it's going to be necessary for these services to be in our district. So I think that it's important that we do keep campaigning on this. I think that it's important that there is transparency of information to make sure that not only are these services fit for purpose, but that they're inclusive and open to not just those in the urban spaces in our district, but also to those from rural communities as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Councillor McCloughlin.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to check the topic that Alison raised about the officials carrying out enforcement duties. Is that going to come back up again, or can I add a comment to that?
Alison, do you want to answer that, maybe?
Yes, Chair. I was going to deal with it later on in the agenda. There's a specific discussion later in one of the minutes around enforcement, so I was going to update members at that point.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'll leave it to the end. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Anthony Feely.
No, I don't want to come in. I must have my hand up. Sorry, Chris. Sorry about that. No.
Okay, no, don't worry. Councillor Maguire.
Go remind Carly August Cougar. Just thanks, Chair, and congratulations on your new position. I do believe I was on the same question as Councillor McCloughlin there for further clarification around the enforcement and who will be carrying it out. So I'll bring it up at a later stage.
Okay. And the final note is for Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing me in again. No, I just wanted to respond to a concerning comment, and that was his assertion that many people or some people with symptoms are going to work. If that is indeed the case, Chair, this practice must stop immediately. We are fortunate indeed that in our district council area, low incidence of COVID-19. We must do everything within our power to keep it that way. If people have symptoms, they simply must not go to work. They must stay at home for 7 days from the time that they develop their symptoms. And furthermore, any household contacts must self-isolate for 14 days unless and until they have a test. So I want to strongly reiterate that point. For whatever reason, in the interest of community safety, those who are symptomatic simply must not go to work for their own safety and for that of others. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, well, I've got no more indications. So I think it's pretty just appropriate if, Alison, if you just clarify the three proposals and then we'll see if they get assent.
No, that's fine, Chair. Maybe I'll just summarise. But the first proposal from Councillor Deehan, which was seconded by Councillor McCann, related mainly to the permanent site in Omagh, the requirement for such testing facility, and a series of questions regarding that. Councillor Armstrong's proposal was seconded by Councillor Gannon, and that related really specifically to the testing centre at St Angelo, the catchment, the current numbers, what is actually being made available, the policy procedures, and that the council would then communicate information regarding that centre when it would be conveyed to us. Councillor Swift's proposal, which was seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald, was really reflecting on the potential of this being a token test centre, a variety of answers being needed from all of the relevant agencies, including the Health and Safety Executive, the Public Health Agency, the Western Health and Social Care Trust, and the Board, to clarify specifically on the expertise and competence on the staff involved and the various health and safety arrangements at the site. And then there were some minor suggestions and amendments, Chair, which the respective proposers and seconders agreed to.
Okay, so look, we'll take those one at a time. So if we take the first, the first proposal, is there any objections to that? Okay, no, that's passed. The second proposal, any objections? Raise your hand. No. And the third proposal, any objections?
Just on the third proposal, Chris, and for Alison, just to highlight about the concerns over the recruitment process as well, just some clarification on that, just really the openness and transparency and what was in the media content at the Impartial Reporter last week. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's been clarified. Any objections?
Chairman?
Oh, yes, Councillor Thompson. Just if you raise your hand, maybe that might be the handiest, but go on ahead.
Yeah, okay. Chairman, just with regard to Councillor Swift's proposal, I think there were some comments made with regard to veterans there on that proposal. So as a party, we would not be supporting anything that was derogatory against the veterans. And I declare an interest as a retired veteran myself. Thank you.
Okay, well, the proposals have been clarified and individuals can vote. So I suppose if there is going to be dissent, can I ask that everyone who is in favour of the proposal, please raise your hand now. Can you record that there?
Oh. Sorry, Chair. Can we just get clarity as to what we're raising our hand on there? Just for clarity, please.
So I'm asking you to whether you accept or don't accept the proposal put forward by.
Yes, Chair, this is Councillor Swift's proposal, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald, and it's on a variety of queries in relation to the testing centre at St Angelo. So just summarising the concerns that this could be perceived as a token test centre, that we would issue correspondence to the relevant statutory bodies, which would be the Health and Safety Executive, Public Health Agency, Western Health and Social Care Trust, as well as the board, the clarification on the health and safety arrangements at the site, the training and competence of the staff, the recruitment procedures for those staff. Councillor Swift also referred to veterans working at the centres, but I understood that was going to be clarified in the recruitment procedures and the openness of the recruitment processes associated with that site.
Is that clearer now, Stephen?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Okay, so if I try again, if everyone clears their hands down.
Chair, if I may suggest, I think it might be easier to record dissent.
Maybe, yeah. Okay, that's probably a better idea. If those who are now, for those who are dissenting, can you please raise your hand now?
Chair.
Yeah, sorry, who's that? Paul?
Councillor Robinson.
Okay, go on.
I have no hand.
Okay, well, your dissent will be well, it won't be recorded, but it'll be noted. As I say, please put your hand down if you're not dissenting. Well, there's Bert in there too. Okay, Councillor Thompson or Councillor Wilson, are you looking to dissent? Yeah. Yeah, guys, it's going to be really, really difficult. There's hands up here that I don't think are. Councillor Michael Duff, do you wish to dissent from this proposal?
Lowered my hand there. Yes, my hand is lowered.
So you're not dissenting?
Sorry, I'm dissenting. Yes, I'm dissenting from the. Sorry, I'm supporting the proposal. I'm not dissenting.
So as I say, I need to make this as clear as I can. Please only have your hand raised if you're dissenting from the proposal. Okay. So just check. Everyone check that your hand isn't up at the minute, or it'll be classed in the vote as a dissent. So at the minute we have Councillor Erskine, Councillor Thompson, Councillor McCloughery. It's just as they've been written up on the board here, so just bear with me. Councillor Elliott. Councillor Buchanan. Councillor Irvine. Councillor Warrington. Councillor Thornton. Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Wilson. Councillor Rainey. There are hands going up and down here. It's very, very difficult.
Chair, can I suggest a recorded vote if it's a struggle to identify?
Okay, thanks, Mary. That would probably make things a lot handier. So a recorded vote might make things easier to identify. That's been requested. So I think we go through them alphabetically. Is that right? Yep. So we go through them alphabetically as I have them here on the screen. So they are alphabetical. Yeah. No, they're not alphabetical. They're alphabetical by first name. So is that still appropriate? Point of order. Come on ahead.
It's on the proposal that's before us. There was a degree of ambiguity in the way it was read out in relation to whether or not it included a reference to former servicemen, and I would like clarification on that.
Alison.
Chair, certainly Councillor Swift referenced it in her proposal, so maybe it would be up to Councillor Swift to clarify the wording she would wish to have included, Chair. My understanding from what she said in the earlier discussion was that concern was expressed regarding veterans working at the centres, and she sought clarity regarding the openness of the recruitment procedures and clarity as to how the health and safety competence was being secured on site.
Councillor Swift, do you want to make a comment on that?
Yeah, that Alison has that in a nutshell. I'm really responding to the article that was in the Reporter last week that has raised the concerns for constituents of mine. It was simply because the said company were, and it was in inverted commas, looking to the veteran community to apply. So why that particular community alone? That in itself is discriminatory, and that was my point. And so people are not satisfied with that. So in the interest of transparency and openness, that was the addition to all of the other concerns in and around, obviously, the skill and the expertise. Okay?
No, I think that's clear, and I'm going to ask everyone else before we start taking the recorded vote. If anyone else is unclear, please say now. Yep, Councillor Irvine. Indicating to speak?
No, I'm indicating to vote.
No, we're going through a recorded vote, and we'll be going through it alphabetically, name by name. Councillor Clark.
Chair.
Yeah, hold on, we'll just work through them. Councillor Clark, are you looking to make a comment? Sean Clark.
Sorry, no.
No, okay. We will be going through each person name by name, so if you're looking to make a comment...
Can you hear me?
I can, and you're on the list. Councillor McCloughy.
Sorry, that's from the earlier voting.
Okay. Councillor Baird, you looking in?
On a point of order, Chair, I understood that recorded votes had to be requested before a vote started. This vote had started, and then subsequently a recorded vote was asked for. Point of order.
Yes, Chair, that's correct. I think, however, that you were finding it difficult to clarify the numbers, and in particular the voting intentions, and as a result you ruled that you would proceed with a recorded vote thereafter.
Chair, just to be clear, it was only for the purpose of the easement of the decision. It wasn't that I would have wanted a formal recorded vote, but it's just we were struggling to get the second completed. So just Alex is right. Thank you.
No, I think Alex has a point. However, it wouldn't have been possible for us to do the meeting any other way. So I think we'll just go for recorded votes, as it simply isn't possible to do it the other way. So if it goes, sorry,
Chair, just a point of order, very quickly, Chair. I think following Councillor Swift's clarification, maybe it's worthy just to check, is a recorded vote still required? I think all she's seeking really overall is openness and transparency around the process. There's nothing derogatory in that. So I don't know whether that might ease some concerns or maybe move things on.
I know it's with the best intention, but a recorded vote has been requested, and people can vote how they wish, but a recorded vote has been requested. So if we start with
Sorry, Chris, I was trying to get in there.
Councillor Green.
Thanks. Well, I'm more than confused than ever on this because previous voting with the hands up and that,
we were asking who was dissenting. We weren't asking who was voting against it, unless I'm heard the thing wrong. Are we now voting for and against rather than who's dissenting?
Councillor Green, I'm going to call out every person's name, and they can then explicitly say on the record if they're voting for, against, or abstain, because I think that's the only way that we can realistically and sort of logistically get this item completed. Are you happy enough with how that's working?
Yeah, but it just seems that the vote seemed to change there mid-term, because we were asking for who was dissenting previously. Now we're asking for a recorded vote.
I think it's the only way it's going to be done. I know what you're saying, but I think it's the only way we're going to get this item resolved. Councillor Clark, you have your hand up. Do you want to make a wee quick comment? I'm anxious to get this over the line. Oh, you've remuted yourself. Yeah.
Not really. I don't know why my hand is up.
No, don't worry about it. We'll just go straight to we're going straight to the vote now. Every member's going to have their name called out alphabetically, and yeah, well, you can call it. If you call it straight in, just call it straight in. Would that be okay? Yeah. Okay. So.
Okay, Chair, so I'll call it. So, Councillor Armstrong, and just to clarify, Chair, based on Councillor Green, this is those in favour of Councillor Swift's proposal that the correspondence be issued to the various bodies expressing concerns on the matters raised. So, Councillor Armstrong.
Against.
Councillor Baird.
Against.
Councillor Blake.
For.
Councillor Buchanan.
Against.
Councillor Campbell.
For.
Councillor Clark.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
For.
Councillor Coyle.
For.
Councillor Curry.
Wait, Councillor. Wait, no, wait. I think she's unmuted herself now. Councillor Curry, are you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Sorry, I'm for that proposal.
Okay.
Councillor Deehan.
For, Chair.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Sean Donnelly.
Well, I just give Sean a wee second. Sean, you unmute yourself, and then if you want to vote, record it.
Can you hear me?
Sean, I can hear you just about. Hold on.
For.
Okay, we've got it.
Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Keith Elliott.
Against.
Councillor Erskine.
Against.
Councillor Feely.
For. I was trying to second that proposal earlier on. I'm for it.
Councillor Gannon.
For.
Councillor Garrity.
For.
Councillor Green.
For.
Councillor Irvine.
Against.
Councillor Keenan.
For.
Councillor Catherine Kelly.
We're not getting anything from you here. Are you sure you're? I'll give you a wee second here, just to, in case you haven't.
I'm kind of doing that, Chair. Sorry, Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald. I just omitted on the list. Sorry, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Can you get me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, I'm for the proposal.
Councillor Podrigan Kelly, Chair.
For.
Councillor Maguire.
For.
Councillor McAleer.
I'm for that motion as well, yeah.
Councillor McCaffrey.
Tommy Lahayan Malta, for.
Councillor McCann.
For.
Councillor McClockery. Councillor McElduff.
4, and can I just say, Chief Executive, that Councillor Catherine Kelly is trying to make a point that she can't be heard in the matter. She's tuned into the meeting and she's trying to vote and said she can't be heard. She sent me a message along them lines.
We're going to cycle back to her at the end. It's not that she hasn't been having her vote recorded, but we'll cycle back to her.
We're just checking the sound at this end, Councillor. We will return. Councillor McPhillips.
4.
Councillor O'Coffey.
4.
Councillor O'Reilly.
4.
Councillor Rainey.
Against.
Against.
Councillor Smith.
Against.
Councillor Swift.
4.
Councillor Thompson.
Against.
Councillor Thornton.
Against.
Councillor Warrington.
Against.
Councillor Wilson.
Against.
And we just return then to Councillor Catherine Kelly, please, Chair.
We're still getting nothing from Councillor Kelly. We're looking to move on without it, to be honest.
Chair, would it be possible if she put on the chat? She isn't able to hear a speaker.
Yeah, I think that would be okay. Hold on. Yeah.
My name wasn't called.
Beg your pardon, Councillor Robinson.
Against.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. If you'll put how you intend to vote in the chat, I think we can roll with that. And I think that's everyone's had their names called. Yeah.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. We'll just wait for her to do so. Okay, Grant. Can you summarise then?
Yes, Chair, we have, by my reckoning, 14 members against, 26 members for. And just to advise, Chair, just in terms of clarifying around the recorded vote, we wouldn't be recording these in the minutes in the normal way. We'll just take the numbers. It's really just to clarify for your voting purposes the numbers, unless you wish that to be the case.
No,
It was really just to specify.
As long as everyone's content with that, then that's okay. If you have any objections, please raise them now.
It's carried then, Chair.
Okay. Oh, is that a hand there? Emmett?
Yeah. What if that's treated as a recorded vote? Should it not? Surely it should be recorded as a recorded vote, because I know we've had an issue before where we tried to raise a recorded vote and we're told we couldn't do it.
Yeah, look, I think, yeah, we'll record it. Then we'll record it. Yeah, no, we'll record it as such. We'll record the individual votes. Okay, right.
So we're on page 3.
Page 3. Okay. Page 4.
Yes, Chair. A couple of items of correspondence for members. This relates to the school crossing patrol at Christ the King Primary School in Omagh. The first letter is from the Minister for Infrastructure, and maybe I should say, Chair, the correspondence from the Minister deals with 2 items. Firstly, relating to the permanent physical crossing at Christ the King, but also the traffic speed surveys, and they have been integrated into the one letter, and the Minister deals with both. In summary, she concurs with the Council that because of the COVID-19, traffic flows are not at their normal levels, so therefore they're not able to assess the criteria for a crossing in the normal way. They are working closely with the Department for Education, and the traffic calming measures in terms of the other 3 schools referenced in the letters are being considered in the context of the local transport programme, and the scheme in Greencastle is being considered for inclusion, with consultation to commence later in the year. And again, later in the year, Chair, when traffic flows return to normal, the speed surveys at Lack and 6 Mile Cross will be undertaken. The second letter then, Chair, on this matter is from the Minister of Education, and he just clarifies that while transport matters are outside of his responsibility, he is working closely with the Department for Infrastructure in the context of the shared education campus at Strood.
Okay, we have a number of people indicating. Councillor Clark first. Sean.
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me?
Yep, got you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, obviously we're slightly disappointed, particularly with the ones in Mid-Tyrone, particularly Greencastle. There's a delay in them, but it's probably understandable. So we're probably generally content with the gender thrust of them, so I don't think I'll say much more.
Okay. Okay. Next we've got Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. And I note that, and I'm grateful that they indicated that a traffic speed survey would be undertaken in some of the primary schools. But again, this reference to budgets. And if I could ask for some latitude, please, with the Chair, could I ask the Chief Executive a proposal to ask when we may resume or when we may have another DEA meeting with the local Western branch of infrastructure? I think from the last meeting was October 2019, and road issues are a big thing for many constituents. So my proposal would be that we write to the Western branch of infrastructure and ask when we may have a WebEx meeting for each DEA, please.
Alison. Alison, no, you're not.
Apologies, members. No, I was just going to say later on the agenda, we do have consideration of the date for the special council meeting with DFI Roads, and normally DFI Roads are keen to do the DEA meetings in advance of that. So maybe, Chair, if Councillor Armstrong was content, we could deal with both matters when we come to that part of the agenda.
Happy enough with that, Diana?
Certainly, thank you, Alison.
Okay, right. We have Councillor Michael Duff next. We can't hear you. There we go.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry about this. Like Councillor Clark, I can understand some of the correspondence. To be honest, I'm content that we're being heard on the Christ the King School, controlled pedestrian crossings, etc. At this time, we're being heard, but just resolve on our part to keep monitoring this and return to this. Maybe not just tonight, but in the near future, continue our lobby for this. But it's part understandable the way the correspondence has been presented, like Councillor Clark said. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll keep it under review. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just looking into done so far in prioritising the scheme at Greencastle. Whilst it is heartening to hear that it's on the agenda now for commencement in September, I think ideally it would be nice to have that done prior to the commencement of the new academic year, and I suppose there's a bit of uncertainty at present when that might be. Obviously there's murmurs coming from the department about August. I think that's probably being a bit hopeful, whether it's September or whether it's later. It would be great if we could apply any further pressure to getting that prioritised and getting it across the line, because obviously if it's done the start of the school year, it's going to cause a lot less disruption for everyone involved. And as Councillor Armstrong has alluded to, it secures the children's safety, and that's really what we're fighting for. And again, quite happy to hear her further input on the school in Lack there, and I think that's a good motion to be bringing forward, and I think there should be consensus and support for that when we do eventually get to that item further on. So thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks. Councillor Keenan.
Oh yeah, it's good to see that there's it's been looked into here, but the problem I have with this is 30-mile-an-hour speed limit and surveys having to be done around primary schools. I think it should be mandatory. A couple of residents of Newtown Butler who previously asked for calming measures in their area were refused, citing traffic flow and stuff like that. But like, how much traffic do you need? Like, around a primary school needs to be 30 miles an hour. And the lollipop lady was actually involved there. She hadn't even got an island to stand on, But I'd like to raise a proposal for the DFI to look at Newtown Butler again with regard to traffic calming.
Can you just really sort of crystallise your proposal again there, Councillor Keenan? Because there's a wee bit of interference coming. Oh goodness. There's a lot of interference coming in.
Sorry. Just around the speed surveys in general, done around the primary schools, like 30 mile an hour should be mandatory, I'd imagine. And I just want to raise a proposal for the council to write to the DFA and to look at the previous request by residents and parents in Newtown Butler for traffic calming measures in their area.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll wait for a second on that one. Councillor Deehan.
Thank you.
Actually, just before you start, because I noticed that there's quite a few mics unmuted and it's feeding into feedback, so we won't be able to hear you properly unless people unmute their mics. Sorry for cutting across you there. I think that's more sorted now. Okay, go on ahead. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you, Chair. No, I wanted to propose, Chair, that we would note both items of correspondence from Minister Weir. I accept totally that during the COVID crisis that any traffic studies would not be accurate or reflect the true traffic flows. I think Minister Mallon has indicated her interest, particularly in terms of the shared educational campus and how traffic flows might impact there in terms of the safety of the crossing. And also, I'm very pleased with the response from Minister Weir. Members will remember that I recalled following an informal meeting with the Education Authority that they were quite defensive in terms of reiterating their viewpoint that it is always the parent's responsibility to get a child safely to and from school. That Minister Weir is prepared to work with DFI, particularly in relation to the shared educational campus. So I welcome that clarification, and I think we're moving in the right direction. I agree with Councillor McElduff, we should keep a watching brief on this, but I just want to propose that we note this item of these two items of correspondence. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I just want to remind people, if your hand's raised, you're coming in, so just check you haven't got your hand raised from a previous item. Next up is Councillor Erskine.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I just want to raise a point there. I see LAC was mentioned, and I fully welcome that, and I'm glad that the traffic and speed surveys are doing. Just a quick sort of comment as well, just to put on record that it's great to see the speed indicator at Clabby now. This has been a long running issue with speed in that area. I know that because I have seen the speed from lorries and even at times tractors, and even though there's speed calming measures there in place in Clabby, it's a running issue. So it's good to see that, and I just want to welcome and pay tribute and thank the PCSP for the work that they are doing with regards putting the message out there about speed. And even though it says in this letter about traffic patterns returning to normal, what we have seen, even though there seems to be now anecdotally and more traffic on the road than what had previously been in weeks, people are still disregarding the fact that speed limits are still in place and they still have to be adhered to. So, anything that we can do, it's good that we have cross-party support on this. So, fully welcome the fact that speed surveys, etc., will be taking place. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Councillor McElduff.
I'll second Councillor Deehan's proposal to note.
Okay. I'm going to assume that's it. Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, it's just to second the proposal around Newtown Butler to have traffic calming around the
Maybe, I don't know why, but there was a lot of feedback in that. Maybe one of the guys can have a look at it. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, like Councillor Coffey is going to second. I would like to make just a follow-up representation to the department to encourage the Minister to progress these 3 projects that are referred to as soon as possible, and seeing if there was any way that the Greencastle issue in particular could be looked at prior to the commencement of the new school year. So I'd just like that recorded as a proposal. Please, Chair. Thank you.
A separate proposal, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to get a separate one, yeah.
Okay, Councillor Sean Clark. Oh, sorry, Alison's going to look in and then I'll bring in Sean.
It's really, it's just, it was just to clarify that the Minister has indicated in her letter that the consultation isn't due to commence until September, so we can write again, but I think we will probably be referred back to the formal consultation process, so maybe just to highlight that to the member.
Okay, so just there's Councillor Clark, Councillor Stephen Donnelly, Councillor Wilson, and Councillor Glenn Campbell are indicating at the minute. We'll get to you in time. Councillor Sean Clark.
Yeah, well, I suppose Alison has probably provided a good, so I'd be happy enough to wait to, until the consultation starts. So, by the way, it's my hand up and it's not meant to be up. Maybe that's another problem.
Don't worry, I think that's going to be a running one. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, well, I mean, I would just want to welcome the fact that this is receiving ministerial attention, and it does seem to be very much on the agenda. And I think that it probably is fair to say that traffic flows aren't going to return to normal for quite some time, particularly until we see further loosening of the restrictions around going back to work. So I think that the explanation provided in the letter does make a lot of sense. Although I think I would reiterate what other councillors have said, that with respect to the Christ the King situation, it's important that we do keep that under review. And all I would say is that I would welcome the fact that there is consideration being given to the provision of a traffic calming scheme in Greencastle potentially in the future. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Wilson. You need to unmute yourself here.
Hello.
Hello. Yep, gotcha.
I've been raising on behalf of Cooley School for the parents and teachers there for a long number of years. It's a very straight stretch of the road going into 6 Mile Cross. Very few people observe the 30 and 40 mile an hour speed limit, unfortunately, and that's something that I would like that included in any proposal that's going forward, that it be included in that.
I'm going to take that as a separate proposal as well now, Bert, but that's on the table. I've noticed some of the councillors saying the sound's going. It seems to be okay on our end. So maybe just try and make sure it's nothing on your end. Councillor Campbell.
Yes, Chairman. It's just in relation to the speed limits around schools, and in the past I have raised this with road service around speed limits at primary schools and secondary schools, really. But in relation to primary schools, I know that there was a pilot scheme done a number of years back by road service, and at the time, I mean, I declared interest as a member of the Board of Governors in St Patrick's Primary School in Escra, but at the time I had raised the issue of speed tram, and it's actually a 60-mile speed limit in place at the school in Escra, which is hard to imagine, and I'm quite certain it's not the only school that has a speed in excess of 30 miles per hour. So I propose that we put on the agenda of our next meeting with road service the issue of those speed limits and perhaps even temporary speed limits, because the pilot schemes have been carried and I was advised that after they were completed they would consider extending them. So I think it's something we need to remind road service that this is something that will be of interest in other places as well. So I propose that, Chair.
Okay, separate proposal as well. So there's a large number of unseconded proposals on the table. Councillor Michael Duff, can you try and just, as I say, time's going on, I'm trying to get the meeting moving on. So if you be as brief as possible, please.
Hello?
Hello. Is Councillor Campbell up next? Sorry, Councillor Michael Duff, sorry.
Hello?
Hello, Sean. No, we can hear you, Sean. But just let Barry in first, and if you want to come in, just try and raise your hand, okay?
I have no hand. I have no hand.
We'll get IT on to you in a wee second here, Sean, okay?
It's only to welcome the decision for Cooley School. That's all I want to say. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, no, that's all right. That's all right. Councillor Michael Duff. You're still muted, by the way. Mr. Michael, if we can't hear you, but if we'll keep going on, and if we can get you back, we will. Councillor Erskine.
Sorry, Chris. My hand's down now.
Grand. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to second Councillor Wilson's proposal, and just one other solitary sort of warning is that despite there being less traffic on the road, the traffic that has been recorded in Lack is still doing high speeds, 87 miles an hour at 8:15 a.m. 72 miles an hour at 13:57. So we have had conversations with the police about this, and there will be a speed camera in the area, and convictions will follow. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Feely.
Thank you, Kearley. I'm coming in to second my colleague, Councillor Glenn Campbell's proposal there, because as Glenn has alluded to, there has been a big issue councillors at all the schools, because I've been, since I got elected, fighting for Belcoo School, and the speeding outside it and the speeding through Belcoo. Councillor Coffey be well aware of that. So I'd welcome that. I'd like to second that proposal and get the road service to talk about the whole issue of speeding around schools. So that's Glenn's proposal. Second now, Chris.
Grand. Councillor Michael Duff, have we got him back yet?
Sorry, Chris, can you ask that again? Sorry about that.
You had your hand up and we couldn't get through to you earlier. Is there anything you want to make at this point?
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Keenan.
Yeah, I'd just like to second Emmett McAleer's proposal to write to the DFA.
Okay, Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know whether it's just me or whether there's other councillors having the problem, but half the councillors I'm hearing, the other half I'm not. If it's just me, I don't mind. But if it's happening to a large proportion of other councillors, I think we need to look whether this meeting's actually payable or not. But if it's only me, I don't mind. I'm happy.
I think it's only you, and as I say, we'll try and get IT to sort things out. IT will be in contact. Okay, we'll try and sort you out, but I think it's only you. Sir Sean Clark.
No, Chris, it must be a mistake.
No, okay. Councillor Wilson. Sean, just put your hand down. There's a wee button.
Yeah. Down yet?
Yep, that's her. Councillor Wilson.
No, I'm trying to get it down.
Okay, well look, that's all my indications. Alison, you have to summarise the proposals.
Yes, Chair, we had 4 proposals out of that correspondence. Firstly, from Councillor Keenan, seconded by Councillor O'Coffey. That was really making mandatory speed limits in the premise or in the vicinity of all primary schools, and to follow up on the previous Newton Butler request. Councillor Deehan, supported or seconded by Councillor McElduff, proposed that the correspondence was noted, but that we keep this under active review, and welcome the general tone and tenure of the correspondence. Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Armstrong, made specific representations around Cooley Primary School. Councillor Campbell, seconded by Councillor Feely, that we included the issue around 30-mile speed limits generally as part of the forthcoming meeting with DFI Roads. And Councillor McAleer, seconded by Councillor Keenan, propose that we write back to DFI encouraging them to progress the schemes in advance of the school year, or the Greencastle scheme, sorry, in advance of the school year commencing.
Okay, well, I don't imagine those. Oh, Thomas?
Thanks, Chair. I'm just looking for a little bit of clarity because the two schools in Newtown are inside 30-mile zones. So I'm just wondering what exactly we're looking for there.
Chair, I think they're two separate items. I think firstly is a suggestion that there should be mandatory speed limits at all schools, but to follow up on the previous traffic calming request for Newton Butler that had previously been submitted, that was my understanding of what Councillor Keenan proposed.
That is correct, Alison, yeah.
Does that clarify things, Thomas?
Yeah. So it's not at the school at all, it's actually on the Clonus Road?
No, the traffic jamming's at the school. It's not the 40-mile issue isn't the problem in Newtown. There was jamming beside the school.
We're getting awful feedback here, which usually happens when there's more than one or two people with their mics on. Councillor O'Reilly, are you content that you understand what the proposals are?
I'm not. What's looked for at the school in Newton Butler is a roundabout at the school there. So that's what's been looked about and asked for by the school and the parents. So not sure what we're doing, but look, if we can talk to road service again about it, then that's good.
Yeah, there was a petition from the parents.
Look, hold on a minute. No, I'm not having this to and fro because the thing will just completely descend then. I think he understands what the proposal is. He can vote with it as he wishes, and the proposal's proposed and seconded. So I think there's no more indications. So we just go straight to votes. I'm going to ask. Okay. Well, maybe not votes, but just indications. So I'm going to ask anyone who's not content with each of the proposals as they're raised to indicate by unmuting themselves and saying so. In the absence of that, I'm going to assume that there's universal agreement. Okay, so the first proposal, does anyone have anyone vote against? No. Okay. Second proposal, anyone wish to vote against? No. Third proposal. There's 4, isn't there? And the fourth proposal. Okay, well, I'm going to count them as all passed. Okay, so we're on page 5, isn't that right? Yeah. Hold on, I am getting two indications. Councillor Baird.
Thank you, Chairman. In relation to item 6.3, page 5, I was just wondering where Councillor O'Coffey got his information or was advised that there was going to be a proposed increase in the number of bus services. This turned out to be erroneous. And we spent a lot of time talking about that. That meeting took 3 nights. Now, maybe I'm contributing now to a further extension of this meeting by asking that question, but I just wondered where the information, which was erroneous, came from.
I mean, Alison can correct me on this, but I believe during the accuracy, Councillor O'Coffey said that either it was misrecorded or he misspoke. That's how I interpret it anyway. If Councillor O'Coffey wishes to clarify that, now would be the time. You just come in.
Thank you. I was raising my hand anyway. So, indeed, Councillor Baird is correct that the situation with COVID suddenly changes from one week to the next. And at that point, information that I was being provided by drivers was that there was a move to introduce many new services at a time when they were very concerned that introducing new services would actually encourage more people onto buses, when the agreement was that they would only cover essential workers, and the idea was to discourage workers or encourage users in a sense, but to keep a basic, a significant coverage of all services. The opposite actually happened in the effect, because no funding was provided, my understanding is, and the services have not been expanded upon. And then last weekend we had huge numbers going on public transport, and I wish to propose actually that we write to the Minister to look for clarification around will there be safe travelling guidelines in terms of numbers of passengers on vehicles in particular, whether it's bus or rail, because it's important that we don't overload. You can't run at higher than 10 to 15% of your capacity. So that's a proposal, please, to the minister.
And I'm going to count that as your so that's you sorted out for that item, yeah.
Chair, may I request or may I suggest would Councillor O'Coffey be content that we also seek the clarity then at this point regarding face coverings, which he referenced in the earlier point around accuracy. So this would be the appropriate juncture to include that.
Very happy. That was my intent. Sorry, I should have mentioned that as well.
Oh, okay. Councillor Wilson, are you looking in on this item? No, I don't think so. Councillor McAleer?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second the proposal brought by Councillor Coffey. I seconded the last one, and just unfortunate that there's been a bit of confusion around it. And I'd like to just speak in relation to item 6.5 on the same page and the post office. And
Let's just try and take one item at a time here. Just so
no worries.
Hold that one for the time being, and we'll come back to the post office. Look, I'm seeing no more indications. So I'm happy to put this one forward. Is everyone content with the proposals that have been put forward? If not, indicate now. Okay, so I'm taking those as passed. So we move on, and I'm assuming Councillor McAleer, you're wanting to be issuing the same page, was it?
Yeah, same page, item 5 on the post office, and I'm presuming maybe the chief executive will keep me right that the associated correspondence will be involved in that.
Yes, that's correct, Chair. So we have correspondence back from the post office. This is in relation to their offer of meeting their change manager to meet with the council, suggesting virtual format for that to discuss their proposals and their general consultation processes.
Thank you, Alison. Yeah, so in terms of the correspondence, I'm happy to note, and I would be encouraged by the correspondence that we have received, and be inclined to then press for a meeting, as you have said there, and as is stated in the letter, that we have the ability to meet online through Teams or through Zoom. So we would be inclined to then respond or source a date that would suit, a date or a time that would suit the council to proceed with such a meeting.
I'll take it as a proposal, Emmett. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other indications? Councillor Anthony Feely?
Campbell first.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Campbell.
Yes, Chair. Chair, I'm happy to second that proposal that we do push for that meeting with post office in relation to the $1 post offices. I'm happy to second that.
Okay. Councillor Feely, sorry.
Thank you, Keir Haley. I was going to second that, but maybe let me propose it to. I'll second the. I'd be very glad to meet the post officers. Yeah, I'm not going to go into a big debate, but there's an issue that I've had down here with the Garrison Post Office with people not being fit to get the money then changed into a bank account. So I'd be happy to second any of them proposals, and sooner the better we get to meet them. Thank you, Chris.
That sounds all right. Councillor Rainey.
I want to support the post office proposal as well. It's long overdue, and perhaps we would find the real reason as to why the post office in these villages closed in the very first instance.
Okay. And finally, just Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. This is a good development in my opinion. Obviously, Anthony has raised the point about Garrison that I was going to say as well. But the greater point from that is this is an issue across the district, and potentially maybe something for after we have this meeting. If we find it productive and the post office find it productive, it's maybe something that we can do on a more regular basis in future. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I understand Councillor Green's sound is sorted, and apologies from our end. But I have no more indications, so we're going to take the proposals now. If anyone has any objections, can they please indicate now? Okay, I'll take that as passed. so we're on to page 6. Page 7. Page 7. Page 8. Hold on now. Councillor Coffey.
Hello, thank you, Chair. I'm just in relation to the Enniskillen Public Realm Scheme. I had obviously raised previously the idea that with the downturn in terms of footfall on the main high street, it may be an opportunity to concertina work. Now, I do believe maybe we could have a little report on it from Alison, but we have correspondence indicating that there appears to be no movement in terms of any expedition of the works on expedition. Good man. Of the works on the public ground scheme as per what we had requested or required in the documentation before us, because it was saying that we were looking to have discussions to continue in terms of expediting matters.
Certainly happy to provide an update, Chair. In terms of the discussion at last month's meeting, we also highlighted the issues regarding social distancing and the other COVID-19 obligations which the contractor was now required to fulfil. The contractor has resumed work this week on site, so that was the week actually today, the 2nd of June. The drainage works are continuing on Regal Pass, and they working on the various locations for street lighting columns throughout. Next week, drainage works will commence on Town Hall Street and also on High Street. In terms of the overall expediting of the programme, Chair, clearly because of the complete government guidance and moratorium on works during the pandemic period, it wasn't possible for the contractors to work during that period, so they have come back at the soonest available opportunity. We are reviewing the programme more generally with them, and when we have that concluded, we will be reporting back to the council in terms of the detail, and if any savings can perhaps be found, time savings can be found later on for some of the other phases of work. What I would just highlight as well, Chair, and it does come up, I know Councillor McElduff is maybe going to reference regarding the pavements and so on. There is also now new guidance from the Department for Infrastructure around, for example, pavement width. So those are also matters that we're going to have to liaise directly with both our project funder and the. So I think I said last month that it wasn't going to be straightforward to facilitate a return to work on site. Very pleased the contractor is now back on in a safe manner and fulfilling all of his obligations.
Okay. Councillor McElduff, are you looking to come in then? Just before you do, just before you do, there's a number of people with their hands still raised from earlier. Just can you please check that your hands are down, as it makes things more easy to understand. If your hand stays up, we'll call you. Just check that, please. Sorry, Barry.
No problem. Thank you, Chair, and all the best. Continue chairing this meeting. It wouldn't be simple on your first night out.
Oh no.
We're sympathising with you. It's not simple, but and Alison's correct. I have a strong interest in this point that she just made. I do welcome the fact from an Omagh Town DEA point of view that, and we were notified of this today by Kieran McCrory, Head of Development, and by Democratic Services, that there's going to be an imminent meeting of the Omagh Town Centre Forum in mid-June, at the end of next week, and that's welcome. I and others will bring ideas to the table there about how to help traders, how to help Omagh Town Centre get back to business. In the changed circumstances, we can't ignore the changed circumstances. There will be queues outside shops when it gets the green light to reopen. There will be the required social distancing. But what we need to do is consult, and act quickly. And I'll be talking to the relevant director, perhaps to ensure that, for example, maybe the churches forum and disability groups will be invited to come along to that town centre forum meeting. I'm interested in their ideas.
Sorry, we're losing you a wee bit. Just can you speak a wee bit slower and clearer, because we're starting to lose you.
must be this because my action is reasonable, I think. But I think that we need to do things quickly. We need to achieve things efficiently and quickly to improve or amend our town centres. I'm specifically focused on Omagh, obviously, but at least I have a vehicle where I can raise this on the 11th of June, which is the Omagh Town Centre Forum. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Do we have any other hands up? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, I heard what Councillor McAduff said there. I wish to support his comments, and it's a very welcome stage now that we're moving on, and that we're going to have a meeting of the Omagh Town Centre Forum, obviously in remote circumstances, but it's very important that we start moving our town centre forward in an appropriate way during this pandemic. So I want to support Councillor McAduff's comments there. Thank you.
Councillor Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. It's about the Enniskillen Public Realm Scheme, and thank Alison for the update. Is there any sign of that meeting recommencing in the near future?
Yes, Chair. We're just looking at dates at the moment. We wanted to have the contractor back on site, which has obviously happened today. So we normally meet on the first Monday of the month, but we're investigating the possibility. We will be communicating dates now to steering group members for their availability. But certainly I would think within the next 2 weeks we'll have that meeting convened. Obviously probably use WebEx or equivalent for that.
Thank you, Chair. At least Councillor O'Coffey will get a chance to raise questions at the meeting he should be attending.
Okay. Do we have anyone else then? No. Okay. Was Kim looking in or not? No. Hands down. Okay. So that's us done. You happen to summarise, Alison? Yeah. Okay. So page 8, page 9, page 10. Okay.
Page 10, Chair.
Okay. Just we'll come to you in order as they're presented to me on the screen here. Just Josephine. Donal first.
Chair, maybe before Councillor O'Coffey comes in, could I just maybe summarise the correspondence?
Okay.
Is that okay, Councillor? Just very briefly. So, Chair, just to advise members, we have 3 letters related to this particular item. The first from Minister Robin Swan, that relates to the potential funding for domestic abuse charities, and the Minister has indicated that he understands the DFC Minister will be making a wider announcement regarding support for that sector. In terms of the domestic instances and investigations within the district, we have a response from Superintendent Clive Beattie in terms of the number of instances reported and the measures that have been put in place by PSNI. And finally, Chair, from the Justice Minister, Naomi Long, in relation to this was specifically the request from the Council around court hearings at this time and encouraging use of virtual or other means of meetings wherever possible. So just those 3 items all related to this debate, Chair.
Okay, well, I have indications from Councillor O'Coffey, Councillor Deehan and Councillor McCann. And, I think Councillor O'Coffey was in first, so Donal.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, very quickly. In relation to the domestic abuse issue, which we raised, in particular, I'd raised the issue of the £76 million that was announced by Jenrick, I think it was Secretary Jenrick, on the 2nd of May, and which we correctly wrote to the Minister to raise as an issue of concern, as it is something that would lie within the Department of Health. However, he sidestepped us, and he referred us to a higher figure of, I think it was 750 million, which was announced by the Chancellor on, I think it was the 8th or the 9th of May, and it is specifically for charities. So there's a clear problem here, because if domestic abuse agencies have to compete alongside charities which have not received any funding in terms of capital supports during the COVID crisis, then they will clearly be at a significant disadvantage. Whereas the 76 million, which we asked the Minister about, and which he didn't even reference in his response, and of which he would obviously have command of insofar as it is a matter for the Department of Health, is something that should automatically go to the various, I think there are 4 charities who are providing valuable services. In regard to the communication received from the police around historic figures, and we should obviously welcome the fact that there's a reduction in the number of reports to date this year, but it has to be said that this is not precisely during the period of the lockdown, and where there has been a significant increase has been during the lockdown period, and I wonder whether these statistics include that. So overall, I have to say I think we should write back, and I would like to propose to write back to the Minister, asking him specifically in relation to the £76 million, which we asked him originally on. Thank you.
Okay, that's a proposal on the table. Councillor Deehan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, I want to welcome these 3 pieces of correspondence, Chair, and I want to propose that we note these 3 pieces of correspondence. I want to make comment on them. First of all, the issue of the rise in incidents of domestic abuse because of the stress which impose on families. This is something which was discussed, which was raised by me at the most recent meeting of the PCSP. And Chair, I must confess to being surprised by these figures. I do welcome Superintendent Beattie's reassurances that police resources will be challenged towards victims of domestic abuse, and in particular his reassurance that the vulnerability support team will also be supporting victims of domestic violence. It is concerning that in the financial year to date in our district we actually have seen 24 fewer cases for the corresponding period last year. However, he reports that there have been 259 incidents of domestic abuse in just 2 months. And I think that this is the tip of an iceberg, even though those figures are horrifying. And it's clear that domestic abuse is intolerable in our society. We all know that it can culminate in fatalities, and indeed there have been fatalities in Northern Ireland in recent months. Secondary to domestic abuse, we understand. So it's an area that is of huge concern to me, and I welcome the previous chair's, Councillor Curry's comments on social media in relation to domestic abuse victims. I think it's important that we should reassure victims that the support is out there and that they will be supported. And second, Councillor O'Coffey's proposal that we should seek clarification from Minister Swan regarding the substantial amount of resource that is required by charities supporting victims of domestic violence and abuse. And finally, I do welcome Minister Long's clarification regarding measures which the Lord Chief Justice has put in place to address waiting times for family hearings in court. Those would be my proposals, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. As I say, just Councillor Rainey and Councillor Wilson, you have your hands raised. We're not entirely sure if they're from earlier. I'm sorry, and Barry as well, Councillor Michael Duff. So if you're looking to comment on this proposal, just keep your hand up and we'll call you in time. If not, take it down. Next is Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to comment briefly on the letter from the Minister for Justice in relation to remote hearings to facilitate family cases, and this is in relation to the parental alienation motion that we brought to the Council a while back. And I suppose just to reiterate the huge impact that parental alienation has on families, both parents and children. And this seems to be exacerbated now at this time with COVID-19 and the backlog of cases which are waiting to be heard in local courts. So that's probably why we wrote to the Minister, why we proposed we'd write to the Minister to try and move this process along. And unfortunately, the Minister hasn't really answered the queries which I raised. You know, if anything, she's outlined an extra layer of administration or bureaucracy in that whole court process that those going through that now must endure. It all takes time, which brings, of course, added strain and added distress to all those involved in that process. Chair, can I propose that we write back to Minister Long and to seek clarity whether these family-type hearings can be heard in a remote setting, just like we're having here tonight. Can I propose that we write back and ask the following points: that is legislation required to hear court cases remotely, particularly around family cases, as is enabled for local government? If there is no legislation in place, can some be tabled with a matter of urgency before the Assembly to progress this? You know, and I'm thinking here that, as it says earlier in my comments, Chair, COVID-19 will be a thing I think that we're going to work with in the future. It's not going away anytime soon. And I think that it's even best practice to have these arrangements in place for the future in the off chance that this could be the normal way of working in the time ahead. So I make that a formal proposal, Chair.
Okay, put that as a proposal on the table. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you very much, Chair. And if it's required, I'm happy enough to second the items of noting the items of correspondence that we have here in front of us. I would just say that I would like to welcome the proactive approach that I think the PSNI have taken to date on these really important issues, and I had the opportunity to meet virtually with the local chief inspector regarding issues of domestic abuse a number of weeks ago. And I think that it is important that we do remain vigilant on this issue. As the superintendent alludes to in his letter, there is a real risk that the scale of domestic abuse in our district is underestimated due to underreporting. And certainly my instinct is that that is the case. And I think that as councillors and as local leaders, we have a responsibility in our district to be actively promoting those support pathways and organisations that do exist, to support victims during this really difficult time, and encouraging all those who are suffering at the moment in silence to come forward to get the support that they are entitled to and deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to ask Councillor Wilson, are you looking in on this item, or have you just got your hand up from previously? Councillor Wilson's, yeah.
Yes, I'm trying to get it down.
It's difficult. Okay, no, that's you sorted out. Thanks, Bert. Councillor Erskine.
Thank you, Chair. This is an issue in terms of domestic abuse that I think we do, and I think we are all taking very seriously. It's so worrying that there are women and men who are waking up in homes in our district and are afraid. And I have read reports over this time in the newspaper of, you know, different incidences, and I'm not going to go into it, but I think as a council, and what I would propose is that we perhaps contact some of those agencies that have been noted there in the district commander's letter, Women's Aid, Victim Support and Men's Action Network, who are doing excellent work at the minute in helping people come forward and supporting those people. I think, I know myself, I feel bereft in trying to deal and help some people who are in these situations. And I think it'd be useful if we could maybe look at a virtual meeting or some way that we can maybe meet with these people, even as a training exercise for ourselves as councillors at this moment in time, because we don't know when someone might come to us who has a domestic abuse issue going on in their home. And we need to be ready and prepared to help those people. So I would propose that we maybe contact these agencies and ask them to detail to us directly what has been going on within our district at this period of time, and see if there's any way that we can help with their support mechanism as well. I know we have training for mental health, so it's important that thank you.
That's okay. Alison, you happy enough for that? Yeah. Okay. So that's another proposal on the table. Councillor Anthony Feely.
Coming in to second my colleague Councillor Steve McCann's proposal, a very good proposal, and I'm just glad to see them correspondence coming back with the parental alienation. For it was a motion that myself and Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly brought up in the meeting a few months ago. I'm just glad to see a lot of correspondence, and just happy to second Councillor McCann's proposal. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thanking you. Councillor Garrity.
Thank you, Chairman, and just to say I agree with the proposal of Stephen and Anthony, but happy to also, if required, second Councillor Erskine's proposal from Deborah, and just to make that for completeness. Thank you.
That's very helpful. Thanks, Mary. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Thanks, Chair. I thought I'd take my hand down there. I was just going to second proposal too. Thank you.
Thanks.
Lovely.
We're on a wee bit of a lag here. Just Councillor Siobhan Curry.
Likewise, Cahirley, I had lowered my hand there. I was coming in to second both of those proposals. I think those are very important points for Margaret.
Thank you. Councillor Steve McCann.
Hand should be down, Chair, hopefully.
Yeah, we're working about 10 seconds behind. I think Councillor Thompson still has his hand up. So, Councillor Thompson, that's the last indication I have.
My hand's actually down, Chairman.
Okay. So that, Alison, would you be prepared to summarise that then?
Just a couple of proposals. Firstly is from Councillor O'Coffey, seconded by Councillor Deehan, that we write back to the Minister specifically on the 76 million as per original correspondence and questions. Councillor Deehan and Councillor Stephen Donnelly seconded the proposal that we noted the correspondence, all three pieces, and remained vigilant. Councillor McCann, seconded by Councillor Feely, proposed we write back to Minister Long, seek clarity specifically regarding the hearings in remote settings and if legislation is required, and if so, that this be tabled as a matter of urgency. And finally, Councillor Erskine, seconded by Councillor Garrity, proposed that we contact the groups outlined in the police letter, and we convene a meeting with them really as a training exercise around raising awareness and, I suppose, trigger signs and information that will be useful for members as they deal with constituents with these matters.
Okay, we have so that sounds like an indication. Councillor Steve McCann.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just briefly, just for clarity, so I was proposing that we write to the Minister, obviously, to seek as legislation required, and if it's not already, if it is required and not ready in place, that she tables legislation before the Assembly as soon as possible to facilitate remote hearings for family courts. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for that clarity, Stephen. Oh, we've got Councillor Feely and Councillor Wilson both have hands up still, and I know it can be a wee bit confusing. If you're not looking to come in, just put your hand down. If you are, come in now. No, that's it. Okay. Okay. So we move on to page 10, page 11. Sorry, do we take that? Yeah.
Chair, we're okay. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15. That sounds like Councillor Wilson. Oh, down again. Okay, no, don't worry about it. Councillor Coffey.
Yeah, it's there's an issue there on page 15 in relation to the WHSCT. It's under the WHSCT, but it actually relates to the category of essential workers and workers who can definitions that are different between the different departments, and it is an issue. I'm just wondering, does that come up subsequently in terms of things? Because I don't want to raise it out of place, but the Department of Education uses a different definition to the Department of Health. And there is a particular problem with that is rising up very quickly, I believe, because the childcare sector is likely to be reopened in the near future. And as yet, there is no guidance for childminders or anything like that around who is eligible for child care. And as a result, registered childminders are actually having to refuse parents who are working because they do not fall into the eligible criteria as laid down by the Department of Health. However, they do fall within the eligible criteria as laid out by the Department of Education. And this conflict between the definitions of eligibility for many things, including childcare, is resulting in huge chaos and concern for working parents. So I'm proposing, if possible, that we raise that with the Minister for Health.
Okay, proposal on the table. There's another indication. Sorry. Councillor Erskine.
Yes, I just want to comment on Donald's point there. This is an issue that is being raised quite a lot with me at the moment from childminders. And I've been speaking to the Department of Education on this directly as well and have sent correspondence off to the Department of Health, and the issue really seems to lie with these two conflicting key worker lists that are there. So I'm happy to second that we write to the Department of Health as a matter of urgency to get this clarified, because this is ultimately going to hurt our economy if people cannot return to work due to childcare.
Okay, well, I don't see any other indications. Proposal has been proposed and seconded.
Chair.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Wilson. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Go on ahead.
Yeah. I do agree with that, but I would also point out the fact that the agricultural industry never was recognised by anybody when all the other industries got 80% of their pay to sit at home. The farming industry went on 7 days a week from the beginning of this pandemic, and I believe that it should be recognised as essential workers as well, because there has been no recognition at any time for the industry. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor McFeely.
Thanks, Chris. I like to agree with Bert there. Hey, but as you know, Chris, I had something to come up at AOB's. Very short thing about farming. Could I bring it in now? Seamus was supposed to do it, but it's going to be me. A minute to do the whole lot.
I think, yeah, that'll make sense now. That'll make sense now. We'll take it now.
I'll tell you what it is, Chris, and Bert knows with this. I'm not going to be about it. At our agricultural liaison group meeting last week, I proposed that we send a letter to Edmund Poots to see where this 25 million was going to go, with some of the hill farmers going to get it. So it had to be ratified at Policy and Resources meeting next week, and it'd be too late. It could be a month before the go. I was looking for permission that we could do it tonight and get the letter away as quick as possible. If you could ask Alison and see what Alison says. I'm making that proposal, Chris.
Well, Alison's nodding, so I think that indicates she's happy enough with it. So I'm happy enough to take it as a proposal. We're to seconder. Anyone want a second?
Second.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, Councillor McCaffrey, seconded. Councillor McCaffrey, are you looking in afterwards because your hand's in for indication?
Thanks for that. Let me in there, Chris.
No, that's grand. Councillor McCaffrey, are you looking in now, or were you just looking a second?
Gurmog Carly, thanks, Chair. No, I was just going to second the proposal, but also I would agree with the sentiments of Councillor Wilson and Councillor Feely. The agricultural industry has been utterly neglected so far, and it is very important that this 25 million, which has been awarded to DAERA, is going to go to the people which are worse off, and that would be farmers in our council district across Fermanagh and Omagh, and particularly, sucklers and hill farmers and people that have not. And of course, beef and dairy prices were also impacted, but people who lost out on some income. So no, just to support the sentiments and
Thanks, Chris. So John Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. The stakeholders engagement, I think DAERA had it out on their social media platforms for stakeholders. So doing what kind of the way money was going to be allocated from my hearing. it's not going to be a lot of money going to be allocated to our area. It could be 20 or 40 pound allocated to each animal that was maybe sold from last year, and I hope that that's not the case, that it is more substantial for the important industry that we have here.
Okay. Comments are noted. And finally, Councillor O'Coffey, and then we'll bring this to a close, hopefully.
My apologies, I had it on.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll bring this. Oh, I'm hearing more indications. Councillor Wilson, can you be quick, please? Oh, back down again. Okay. Well, I think.
Chair, can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you.
Yes, I think it was one of the councillors mentioned animals sold from over the past number of months. A lot of farmers out there, like ourselves, with a closed herd at this minute in time with TV. So we couldn't sell any cattle. So how do we get, what do they say about getting £40 for or whatever for selling an animal if you can't sell them? You're outside that criteria as well. There's a lot of things, and I wanted to support that Councillor Feely proposed that. Yes, I want. We need to be getting that away as soon as possible. Thank you. I'll not keep you on any longer.
No, thanks very much, Bert. Councillor Curry.
Clearly, just on the childcare item there that was raised by Corrier O'Coffey, our party colleague Catherine Kelly had a big meeting with more than 70 childcare providers just last week. And I know she's raising concerns with the Equality Commission because this is something that's impacting heavily on women. The childcare sector is reporting that, a lot of them are going to collapse. And I think this is a bigger issue than just for the Minister for Health, but I think we should also be making representations to the Minister for Education and the Minister for Economy to provide the support that's needed for the childcare sector. Now, they're facing huge challenges. They're going to be working on reduced numbers. There's going to be staff cuts if that happens. They're probably going to have to charge more money. So it's going to be a case where if you've got the means, you'll be able to afford childcare in what is already a difficult sector. To find, it's hard to find affordable childcare. So I do think we need to make representations to those other ministers too, and I'd like to propose that.
Okay, well, that's another proposal on the table. Anyone prepared to? Oh, there's more in Diana.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think it's an excellent proposal coming from Councillor Curry, so I'm happy to second it.
Okay, is that us, Damien? Sean, your hands up. Go on ahead.
Brown arm, sorry, Chris.
No, don't worry.
Hand me off.
No, not at all. Not at all. So I'm getting no more indications. Alison, would you please summarise that the number of proposals on the table?
Yes, Chair. We just read 3 proposals there. Firstly from Councillor O'Coffey, seconded by Councillor Erskine, writing back to the Minister of Health for a single agreed definition of essential or key workers. Then from Councillor Feely, seconded by Councillor Coyle, I think. Sorry, Chair, might just need to clarify that we write to the DAERA Minister regarding the funding that has been allocated and ensuring that an appropriate proportion is allocated to the council district, particularly those less favoured areas and more challenging environments, and might be worth just clarifying the overall funding methodology as part of that. And then finally, Councillor Curry's proposal, seconded by Councillor Armstrong, that we also make representations to the Ministers of Health and Education to provide appropriate supports for the childcare sector at this time.
I'm getting a number of indications now. And please be as sharp as you can on this one.
I know, Chris, I'm just clarifying it was Councillor McCarthy second that, but it also it's Councillor Coyle and Councillor Wilson. No, that's all, Chris, just clarifying it.
Okay, thanking you. Chris McCaffrey, same applies.
Yeah, Gormo McCarthy, just quickly, I did second the motion. I had my hand raised to come in on that, and I think that maybe some of the other councillors have spoken over the microphone, so I did have my hand raised to do that. So Gormo, good luck.
Okay, well that'll be recorded as well. I think that's us. If we go now to the proposals, I can't imagine there'll be a huge, but there are 3 proposals on the table. There are 3 proposals on the table, and
agreement.
And we'll take them all. We'll take all 3. Is there any disagreement for any of the 3 proposals? Speak me.
Still, Chris, De Bruyne, Orange, Siobhan here.
Yeah, sorry.
Just on that proposal that I made, I'd also like to include the Department for Health in the support as well, but I don't know if it should be included with the first proposal by Councillor O'Coffey or not. So just for clarity.
Say that again.
Sorry, Chair, just to say we have included that within Councillor Curry's proposal, but I think Councillor O'Coffey had specifically requested that we write to the Minister of Health for a single agreed definition of essential or key workers.
Yeah, it's just around the support, the funding support, Alison, if that could be sent to the 3 departments, health, education and economy.
Sorry, yes, I didn't mention economy. Sorry, Chair, thank you.
Okay. Donal, I'm going to give you 10 seconds because I think you've been in before in this one.
Yeah, it's just to clarify, childcare obviously falls between the aspects falls between all 3. So I would totally agree with Councillor Curry. We should write to all 3 when it comes to funding.
Okay, thanks, Ian. Right. Is there anyone in disagreement or wishing to vote against those 3 proposals that have been put on the table? No. Okay, I'm taking that as unanimously passed. Okay, so page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17, page 18, page 19. Alison, do you want to come in this? No? Okay, 19, and page 20. So that's the entirety. You know, I take proposer and seconder for the entire? No? No? Okay, that's all dealt with. That's the 6th one. So we now move to item 6.12. Oh, item 7 for the reconvened council meeting. Okay, thanks very much. So we're now on to the matters arising from the reconvened council meeting on the 7th of May. We go through it page by page. Page 1, page 2, page 3.
Yes, Chair, I just have an item on page 3, if I may. Chair, we reported at the meeting on the 7th of May regarding the replacement of the Northern Ireland Planning Portal. We received correspondence on Friday evening to advise us that Mid-Ulster District Council have now withdrawn from the collaborative project. So as a result, there are now 10 as opposed to 11 councils participating. The impact of that, Chair, is that there is a rise in the council revenue costs. So our share will go from 9.49% to 10.66%, and also, Chair, a rise in the capital cost of the project as well. I think that rise is approximately £90,000, 90, of which we have appropriate financial provision. Chair, just to confirm that the preferred approach, the advice from the agents, applicants, as well as from the business case itself, was that a collaborative approach for this is best. So we would be recommending that we continue, albeit it is on a revised basis now with those new figures and on the basis of 10 councils as opposed to 11 participating.
Okay. Now, I'm noticing that we have half an hour left, and I would appreciate brevity. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. And hear what Alison has said there. I suppose it's just to Mid-Ulster District Council pulling out of this, and particularly because they showed commitment at the start towards it. But I'm happy to propose that we move forward with the 10 councils if that needs a proposal. happy to propose.
It does, yeah. Thanks very much, Errol. Councillor Paul Robinson.
I'll second Earl's proposal.
Thanks very much.
Did Mid Ulster give any reason why they pulled out?
No, Chair, I'm not privy to that information. I just understand that their preference is to go independently. So it will mean that agents, for example, working in the Mid Ulster District Council area, as well as other council areas, will have to access both. And as I understand, Mid Ulster will also have to be able to access the collective portal for transboundary applications, for example, that would affect us.
Okay. You happy enough with that, Councillor Robinson?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much. Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I think Alison just answered the question that I was going to ask about what will happen Mid Ulster now. They're going to obviously have to get their own system in place and not depend on the other one that the 10 councils have.
Yes, Chair. Sorry, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor O'Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. There's a whole range of questions opened up by this. Is a very significant expenditure, and we shouldn't, I think, prejudge what approach we make. I think we need to know, frankly, why Mid Ulster is. What is their alternative? How is it going to work in practice? Are they going to save money by doing it in an alternative way? And do we have any guarantees that other councils won't pull out and further increase the burden to ratepayers? Now, it's a very unfortunate, because I think it would have been a very positive development. But if one council is going out, I just don't know why we wouldn't maybe reconsider or take a little time to consider our options.
Well, Councillor Coffey, you're aware that there is a proposal that's proposed and second on the table at the minute, but thanks for that.
Chair, I'm happy to respond to those queries, and at least with the information that I have. Firstly, all of the options, including our council and other councils going independently, was considered. However, by far the strongest option was a collaborative approach, and it is one that is really replicated across any of the both in the south of Ireland as well as in England, Scotland and Wales. Mid Ulster had indicated at the start of the process that they may have a preference to go independently. It was not so it's not entirely unexpected in terms of this departure for them. I appreciate the comments in relation to the expenditure. However, we did make the appropriate financial provision at the outset of this process. In terms of the solution that Mid Ulster themselves are proposing, I did ask their chief executive that when this information came to our attention, and he indicated that they are now working through the details of it and will obviously be in contact with us in due course. My understanding in relation to the other councils is that they all remain fully committed to the collaborative project, and this will be proceeding 10 council model with the department, and Mid Ulster are the only council who will be going independently. I understand it's an off-the-shelf purchase, which interestingly is the proposal that we are also doing as part of this business case. I know there is a significant time requirement around it, for example, data migration. I don't know how that is being considered in the Mid Ulster proposal, but obviously those are matters for that council. I think from our perspective, Chair, notwithstanding the change in the financial breakdown, we would certainly be recommending that this is the correct approach to go forward on a collaborative basis. In terms of the timing for this, the department has indicated, and we have previously reported through the overall procurement deadlines, so they do need really an immediate response from each of the councils as to their continued position or their continued participation with.
Thank you very much, Alison. Councillor Curry.
Oh, Chris, sorry.
No. Okay. Councillor McCaffrey.
Well, I actually took my hand down, but just very quickly, it was just, Alison had sort of alluded to it anyways, but it was just in querying Mid Ulster Council's solution. I am aware that they use an app on Android and Apple stores, which they use for reporting issues to the council. So possibly, it's based in Mid Ulster as well. So possibly, that is the solution they're going with. But I still think that, for the reasons that Alison has outlined, that a collaborative approach with the other 9 councils is still going to be more cost effective than going independently. So, just to mention that as well, Gordon All
right, thanks very much. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it seems like a very decision, especially when, by all sounds, it seems to be one that's going to cost Mid Ulster a bit more than to go out on their own, and especially if they still have to log on or use this new system. I'm wondering if we could, and I don't know if Alison has been speaking to them or if this has been taken sort of as a joint decision with a particular director from the council here, but could we contact Mid Ulster just to get an idea of their reasoning behind this? And I would also be interested, maybe, I know Councillor Coffey suggested about the added cost, I suppose, if anybody else drops out, but is there an option for Mid Ulster further down the line, if they realise that what they're doing maybe isn't the best system or is going to cost them more, that they would rejoin or come back into the loop at some stage? Obviously meaning that might potentially then save us some money if that were to materialise.
Chair, on the latter point, no, my understanding now, and this is why the department are seeking formal and final confirmation, is that there is no opportunity for Mid Ulster District Council to participate, and they've made their sort of final decision. I'm certainly very happy to continue to liaise with colleagues in Mid Ulster, with my own colleagues here. I don't think we will be getting very much definitive information until they progress some of their own procurement and associated matters. It was, as I say, the council took their decision last Thursday evening and we were notified on Friday. We can endeavour to do that, but I don't think ultimately it may be useful by way of background, but it won't change the course of action that we would be recommending to you.
Okay. Councillor Raymond Keenan. Raymond, can you hear us? Still looking in, is he, Damien? Yeah. Ewan, you're muted, so.
Hello, sorry, yeah.
All right, that's all right. Go ahead.
I'd like to second the proposal by Emmett there.
Oh, great. Well, in the absence of.
Just maybe to cover, I don't think there was a formal proposal as such, but maybe Councillor McAleer may wish to clarify that.
Yeah, happy to do so. To contact Mid Ulster District Council to get their reasoning or their logic behind why they have with, I suppose, even for our own benefit, why it is they're proceeding in the manner that they're proceeding. So it's just to get clarification around the reason or the logic behind their reasoning to remove themselves from this collaborative process that all 10 of the remaining councils are involved in.
I'll take that as being seconded by Ewan, obviously. We'll take that proposal first. Oh, sorry, Donald.
Very briefly, it's just yeah. I'm just wondering, on the back of what Alison said, is there a timeline for this? Like, should we try and bring this back before subcommittee in the interim?
Chair, there is a timeline and it's immediate. We have to revert back to the council, to the department. Essentially, our commitment is after our council meeting, which is this evening. The deadline for decisions was actually earlier in May, and then the Mid Ulster decision, which came later than anyone had anticipated. So no, we wouldn't be in a position. We can certainly bring back a report for information, but we would be intending to bring a decision from tonight's meeting to the department about our continued participation or otherwise in the project.
Okay. Look, I have three more indications. They're going to have to be very sharp, or else we're going to run out of time. So please, I'd appreciate brevity. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. No, I'm just wondering about the rationale in us querying Mid Ulster's decision. I don't know how appropriate it is for us to be questioning their decision making, and Alison has made clear the other 10 councils who are still involved are still committed. So what Mid Ulster have decided to do, I don't know whether that's relevant to us. We are committed to this project. Thank you.
Well, there's a proposal on the table, and councillors can vote accordingly. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, it's just an issue. If we're trying to find out a wee bit of information from Mid Ulster District Council, I'm happy enough on my proposal that we move forward as a council, as Alison has outlined. That has been seconded by Councillor Paul Robinson. If we want to bring further information or try and get further information from Mid Ulster District Council, there's no harm in that. But that doesn't upset our decision to move forward in a collaborative approach with the other councils in Northern Ireland. Thank you.
No, well, Councillor Thompson, I'll be taking the two proposals. I don't think they're mutually exclusive, so I'll be taking yours first, and then the second one as an FYI. Councillor Garrity.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Very quickly, to agree with Councillor Thompson's proposal, and I would like to say there is no harm in looking for information, I'm sure, from another council, and I do wish Mid Ulster well, but it's a very risky, possibly road, and I'm delighted that Councillor Thompson proposed this, and I will be for that proposal. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And finally, Councillor Maguire.
I'm going to carry you more or less along with Councillor Donnelly. I'm at a loss as to why we would be formally requesting the thought processes of another council area, given that we have our own very competent staff, well informed throughout this process. I'm quite happy with Councillor Thompson's proposal, and I really do wonder, as a point of information, is it common practice for one council to write and ask for the thought process of another council? It doesn't seem very professional to me, and an appreciation of our own professional team. I'm quite happy to support Councillor Thompson.
Well, Councillor Maguire, just before you, I think what we'll do is we'll just take it to a vote, and we'll take the two proposals separately, and councillors can vote accordingly. I think that's the way to move this forward.
Chair, my hand is showing up on the screen. I don't know whether it's showing at your end or not. It's been up.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Unfortunately, I'm getting ahead.
It's showing up on my screen. Well, anyway, I just wanted to make a quick comment. You've asked for brevity, Chair. Maybe if people were adhered to standing orders and only spoke once rather than several times on the issue, would get a bit forward. What I want to say is that it's rather unfortunate that Mid Ulster Council have broken ranks on this matter. Alison probably has clarified my concern that at some later date they may want in, but were they ever to want in, they would have to pay and compensate us for the work that we have done in going ahead as a group of 10. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alec. As I say, I think we'll just move to the vote now. There's no more indications. So I think we'll take Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Robinson.
Chair.
Oh,
sorry.
Councillor Deehan. Councillor Deehan, are you wanting to speak on this?
Thank you, Chair. It's just really a point of clarification before we take the vote. Did I understand you correctly that you feel these two proposals are mutually exclusive?
No, the opposite.
No, it's just, Chair, if I may, I think it's absolutely essential that we vote to continue with this collaborative process, and I share members' regret that Mid Ulster has pulled out. So, a number of speakers have said that there's no harm in seeking clarification or further information, but it isn't really going to affect our decision making. So I just wondered if the proposer, Councillor McAleer, would clarify what his intentions are, other than to try to understand the rationale a bit better, because to my mind, it doesn't really affect our decision making tonight. So I wonder, could Councillor just clarify the reasons for his proposal? Thank you.
McAleer, try and do it in a couple of sentences, please.
Sure, yeah, it's first of all just to see behind it, and secondly to see what the benefits of going that way. So if they know something that we don't know, if they're obviously going to save on expenditure, it would be great to have that knowledge. So that's
the rationale. I have two proposals on the table. Proposal from Councillor Thompson and Councillor Robinson that we proceed. I'm going to put that to a vote. I'm going to ask for if there's any dissent, and if there's any dissent, please indicate now. Okay, that's passed unanimously. Oh. Who's that? No, hand lowered. Okay, so I'm going to take that as unanimous consent to Councillor Thompson and Councillor Robinson's proposal. So that's done. And then if we take the second proposal, which I can't remember who proposed in second, but it was McAleer and Councillor Keenan. I'm going to ask: is there any objection or any dissent? Oh, I'm getting yeah. Right. Well, there we go. That's lots of hands being raised. I propose that rather than going through we treat it as a recorded vote, and where we ask individual councillors whether they're voting for or against. However, it will not be recorded in the minutes as a recording vote unless someone requests it to be so. So if we just go through them alphabetically, and
I'd like to call for a recorded vote then, if that's possible, please.
Well, it'll be recorded in the minutes as a recorded vote. Alison, I'll hand over you to just go through the names.
Okay, Chair. So this, just to confirm, is on Councillor McAleer's proposal that we write to Middle Ulster District Council seeking clarity of their thought processes and any information that can be ascertained. So Councillor Armstrong.
Against.
Sorry.
Okay.
Councillor Baird.
Against.
Blake.
Against.
Councillor Buchanan.
Against.
Councillor Campbell.
Against.
Councillor Clark.
Against.
Councillor Quinn.
Was that Curry? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Councillor Coyle.
Sorry, Chair, it was muffled. Against.
Councillor Curry.
Against.
Against, Chair.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Against.
Councillor Sean Donnelly.
We can't get Sean, but Sean, if we'll try at the end, sure.
Oh, sorry. Again.
Did you get me now?
Yep,
Yes.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Elliott.
Against.
Yeah, against.
Councillor Feely.
So sorry, I couldn't switch on. Against.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Against.
Councillor Gannon.
Against.
Councillor Garrity.
Against.
Councillor Green. I think has left the meeting, Chair. Councillor Irvine.
Against.
Councillor Keenan. Councillor Catherine Kelly.
There doesn't seem to be anything there. We'll try again at the end. Yeah. Oh no, there she's written into the chat against.
Thank you. Councillor Podrigan Kelly.
Against.
Councillor Maguire.
Against, Charlie.
Councillor McAleer.
For.
Councillor McCaff.
Eden. Against.
Councillor McCann.
Against.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Against.
Councillor McElduff.
Eden. Against.
Phillips. Councillor Councillor O'Reilly.
Against.
Councillor Rainey.
Against.
Councillor Robinson.
Against.
Councillor Smith.
Against.
Councillor Swift.
Against.
Councillor Thompson.
Against.
Councillor Thornton.
Against.
Councillor Warrington.
Against.
And Councillor Wilson.
Against.
Okay.
Chair, just take contact. Chair, there are 4 for and 35 against.
Okay.
So that falls.
So that falls. Okay, and that's the issue dealt with. So we indication. Down. I would just ask that there was some hands raised for the vote. Please lower them. Have we got indication now or not then, Damien? John, your hand's still up. John McLaughlin. Are you looking to speak now?
No, I'll just check here.
Okay.
I'll sit down again. Thank you.
Yep, Councillor McAleer.
Yeah, thanks. Just very briefly, Chair, I just find it very strange that councillors are voting against finding out about information from a neighbouring council on something that could potentially, now it may not, but could potentially save the ratepayers in this area quite a substantial amount of money. It's quite baffling why so many people have voted against that, but that's the way the cookie crumbles.
The vote's been had, so I mean that's the issue sort of squirreled away. We're going to move on now. The rest of page 3. Oh, sorry, Bert. It's all right.
Chair, no, I thought my hand was down.
Oh, okay. Rest of page 3. Page 4. Don't know.
Yeah, just very quickly, can I find out that the details of the emergency grant aid budget will be provided at the upcoming PNR? Just confirm that because we haven't got the minutes. Thank you.
Alison.
Chair, it'll actually be at the Regeneration and Community Committee. There's a full update on the grant aid.
Right. I think that's that dealt with. Yeah. Okay. Page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9. Donald.
Page 7, it's just in regard to the issue that was raised earlier on by Councillor McElduff around the environmental health officers and just express concern that the Minister has not as yet responded and that contact tracing, which is underway pretty much everywhere else in the whole of Western Europe, has only just been announced. So the fact that our environmental health officers are ready to step up and that this has been taken away and moved to Ballymena, I think is nothing short than disgraceful.
Okay, noted. Yeah, Emmett, are you looking in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just in relation to at the bottom of page 7 there, I think it is, there's mention of the Eat Well, Live Well.
I think
it's actually, sorry, Chair, to interrupt. We do have a response to that, but I was going to deal with it at page 10 where there's the various resolutions.
Okay, no, that's fine. I wasn't sure when it was, so I'll hold off until then. Thank you.
Okay. Page 8, page 9, page 10.
Yes, Chair, thank you. So just 2 items of correspondence to highlight here. Firstly, as Councillor McAleer referenced there, the Eat Well, Live Well programme. So we've received correspondence from the Education Authority, which gives an overview but advises that a total of 136 children and young people from the District Council area were referred to the programme and have received food boxes.
Yeah, is that the issue we're looking in on, Emmett? Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a very small number because we had a report brought to the last council meeting giving details of figures of children within our area who were claiming free school meals, and that figure was just under 6,000, 5,942 children. So 136 children seems like a fairly meagre amount, and I know this scheme was oversubscribed in a very short period of time. And I suppose it just highlights, as we've discussed before, the hidden poverty within this area. So whatever I suppose we can do as a council to provide for and look after the most vulnerable in our society, we really need to do. But I think just the figures are very worth noting in relation to that.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to balance 2 things here. Do you have a proposal out of that, or you just want to note that?
I suppose if we can contact either the EA to see if they can provide anything further, or if there's any plans in the pipeline from the EA or well, we've been told a number of times that the Department for Communities isn't going to do anything further. So definitely, if we can contact the EA to see if there's anything available to make up the numbers that we have a serious shortfall in this district area.
Okay, proposal. We've got Donal up next.
Thank you, Chair. I was actually indicating on page 9 already, but I wanted to speak on page 10. In regard to page 9, I wanted just very quickly to get a.
Donal, can we close off that issue first, and then we'll come on to something.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Barry.
I wanted to speak on this as well.
Barry, go ahead. If Donal's looking in at the end.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think that the discontinuation of that support for vulnerable children, and they only amount to 136 in our council area, who are recipients of particular food parcels. It reminds me of the campaign to address school holiday poverty. And I think we should write to the Minister of Education to ensure the continuation of a scheme that is aimed at helping vulnerable school children in relation to addressing holiday poverty of this nature. I mean, we're often hear that this could be the only solid meal some children get in a day. So to end this in June, I would be arguing for and propose the continuation of this scheme on at least until, and subject to review, the end of the summer holidays.
Okay. Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor McElduff raises a very important point in poverty, and I want to second his proposal, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Raymond Keenan.
Hello, yeah. I'd like to second proposal we am there.
Okay, thanks a million. Donal, were you looking in on this item or the later one, because it was sort of you were at the very end?
I'm happy to let that issue go, but I want to get back on number 9 if I can, just briefly.
Okay. Well, I'll come back to that. So we have 2 proposals on the table. We're going to take those together. I think it's probably appropriate enough. If anyone's got any problems with them, please indicate now. Okay, that I'm taking as passed. Now, just due to the time sensitivities, there is provision in standing orders for moving up items 10 and 11, because they obviously, if you look at them, I don't think we have time. So we need to get these out of the way, and then we'll come back to it. So look, we're going to move up items 10 and 11. If Alison, you happy to take that?
Sorry, Chair, just given that the meeting now will not conclude within the designated time period, it's to consider or seek your approval for the delegation of council powers to 2 committees in June. Firstly, the Environmental Services Committee tomorrow evening, and that's for 1 item, which is consider report on the MDR contract. So we would take a proposer and seconder for that first, please, Chair.
Yeah.
Councillor Gardy, Chair, if that's okay.
Second. We've got 2. Proposed. Seconded. Any objections? Nope. Okay.
Secondly, Chair, 3 items for Regeneration and Community Committee. The update report on the full fibre programme, and it's specifically regarding procurement, to consider the report on proposed grant aid call and a report on the District Council Good Relations Programme 2020-21.
Councillor Thompson proposed.
Seconded, Chair.
Second.
Hold on. We need names with you, but we've got one from Councillor Thompson.
Councillor Thompson proposed.
Second.
And Robert Irvine, I think I heard a name. You need to say proposed and then your name, so that we can sort of catch who said it. That's those 2 issues dealt with. Do we now move back to where we were, and we just until
I think Councillor Coffey was indicating, Chair.
And Councillor Donnelly as well. We'll take Anne-Marie first. She's the first on the list.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, I'm conscious of time. I see that there's a recommendation for a meeting regarding Project Stratum on the 10th of June, and I'm aware time's of the essence. I'm wondering, can we just note that, accept that meeting?
There is provision in standing orders for moving up items, so yeah.
Yes, Chair, certainly. Maybe if I could just one matter as to say very briefly on it, Chair. Members will know we have had extensive correspondence on this subject. We have had recent correspondence, but this offer of the meeting with the junior ministers is from an earlier letter, which I think possibly emanated from the Broadband Working Group in the first instance. So it's really just to get members' approval. I do appreciate this is a strategic issue for all members, that you'd like to meet the council, for the council to meet with both the junior ministers, Chair, and that was be on a remote basis. So just maybe Councillor Donnelly would like to propose on that basis.
Yeah, you have enough.
Happy to propose, thank you.
Okay.
Second, Anthony Philip.
Anthony Philip, thank you. Any dissent from that? No. Okay, we'll take that as passed. So that's all the items that are going to move up. We've got 6 minutes left, so we'll just keep going. Councillor Coffey.
Sorry, it was page 9 under the civic amenity sites reopening. Obviously, there was an amount of controversy, maybe let's put it that way, around some of these. But I'm just really wondering whether there's a report back on the waste industry being able to service the sites now. I do recognise the MDRs coming up subsequently, but that does not cover the full list of recycling operators. Are they all collecting waste as of now?
Chair, I'm mindful it is on the environmental services agenda, both in the context of the phased reopening and MDR, so Kevin will be providing a full update tomorrow evening.
Yep, happy enough. We've still got indications from Councillor Coyle, Keenan and Garrity, and I think that'll probably bring us up to time. Councillor Coyle.
Sorry, Chair, didn't lower my hand. It was proposed.
Councillor Keenan.
Sorry, same as that.
Councillor Garrity.
Hands not raised, Chair.
Oh. Say we're just on a wee bit of a lag here. Okay, so just summarize that, or
no, I think we've everything summarised and up to date, Chair. But just to note, then for members' benefit, you would be resuming the meeting on page 10, and we have dealt with we're down to the fourth resolution, so we'll be picking up at the bottom of page 10 where we've correspondence. Chair, in terms of reconvening. We're proposing that you have a full committee schedule, as you know now, for the month of June. So the first available date we could accommodate would be the Tuesday, the 16th of June at 7 p.m. If members that'll be this fortnight to reconvene for a council meeting to conclude business.
Do we have a proposer for that?
Propose Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Councillor Coyle. Seconder.
Councillor Thornton.
Councillor Thornton. Thank you very much. We've got 4 minutes left. Well, I think there's no point in starting a new item without having the ability to finish it. So I think we'll call the meeting there, and we'll meet together as a council at the pre-arranged time. Thanks very much, everybody, for bearing with us. It's been a steep learning curve for us all, but I think we'll call it there. So thanking you, and we'll meet.
Well done, Chairman.
Well done.
Well done. Well
done, Chair.
Thank you all. Meeting ended at 22:02. Thanking you.
Good job, Chris.
Well done.
Thanks.
Well done, sir.
Stay at home, Chairman.
Well done, Chair. Well done.
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Bernice. Night, Jim Bob.
See you all.
Night, guys. Hello.